Michael Hernandez here, MLH Media. We are here today live for MLH Media Uncensored Episode 4. We're going to dive straight into it here because I have a very valuable guest that is waiting on the line here. But we're going to talk a little bit before we get to the call. Man, I told you guys that Anthony Hernandez and Michel Pereira fight was going to be an absolute amazing card, and that is exactly what they delivered. That whole entire card, I would say, was pretty damn spectacular to watch in terms of new fight fans getting to see a couple of new names rise, and then on top of that, we also got to see the development of a kind of new star being born in Mr. Anthony Hernandez. So we're just going to go ahead and jump straight into this reaction here for kind of this card. I mean, Anthony Hernandez, without a doubt, one of the most dominating performances that we have seen in all of 2024. Got the win over Michel Pereira with a 5th round TKO victory. And I mean, if you are just watching at home and watch this whole entire fight from start to finish, then you know exactly the story that was kind of being told about this fight. I mean, just an absolutely killer performance from Anthony Hernandez from start to finish. Had a little bit of trouble with the body shots in the beginning, but was able to bounce back, and that was kind of what the story of what a lot of people thought was going to possibly go into it. Obviously, seeing some weaknesses in Anthony's game in terms of some of the fights that he has had a little bit of weakness in the body, but I mean, he's just always been known to pour it on, put that gas tank on you, and that is exactly what he was able to do against Mr. Michel Pereira. Co-main event, Rob Font was able to get the victory despite the 400 plus odds against him. I mean, at a negative 500 favorite, Kyler Phillips just kind of, in better words, shit the bed. I mean, he was not at all looking to peak what he did. I mean, I had a couple of people kind of making some comments about obviously the Osterine test a couple of years back from Kyler Phillips. Obviously was not in favor of his cardio against Rob Font as well. I mean, it just seemed after that first round, there was absolutely nothing that Kyler Phillips was able to get started in terms of the offense against Rob Font. And then, Charles Johnson got another big win. Now his 4th win of the year, possibly was looking to hop on this Abu Dhabi card. I believe the UFC kind of nixed the idea of that, but still a very solid win from Charles Johnson. Looked very good from start to finish. Sumadarji didn't show any weaknesses as well. Had a very great performance, but just could not seem to kind of get inside the range of Charles Johnson. It seemed to be a very big issue for him, and Charles Johnson's a problem at 125 with his size and with his framing. Definitely makes it very difficult for a lot of these kind of smaller guys, especially at 125. And most guys are not going to be at 5'9" and have the length that energy Mr. Charles Johnson has, and he was able to go ahead and out there. And I mean, I gotta give a shout out to my guy Cameron Smotherman, man. I was like, I'm taking this guy. I feel like, he's got all the motivation going into it. Shout out to my guy MMA Locker Room Mills. He has a saying, he says, you stick with your guns, you stick with your guys, and we stuck with Cameron Smotherman, man. So shout out Cameron Smotherman, getting the victory over Jake Hadley. I believe Jake Hadley is now kind of on the UFC roster watch. Possibly believe he was cut this past weekend after that performance, just because, not only did he have a little bit of trouble in terms of the fouling, I think it was a couple of groin shots that he had on Cameron Smotherman actually made him lose a point, or it was an eye poke. The eye poke actually made him lose a point. Then there was a groin shot that Jake Hadley had received from Cameron Smotherman a little bit earlier in the fight. Darren Elkins and Daniel Pineda put on an absolute show. A Sacramento native over there getting the win alongside Anthony Hernandez as well getting the win. Darren Elkins and Anthony Hernandez just putting on for the 916 this past Saturday. Darren Elkins had a very good performance. Possibly one of the more flashier performances we've seen from Darren Elkins in the past couple of years. We always know this guy's going to bring a pint of blood wherever he goes into whatever octagon he walks into, and he definitely brought that against Daniel Pineda. That whole octagon turned into a sea of red watching that fight. Absolutely amazing display between those two gentlemen, and congratulations to Daniel Pineda finishing out his UFC career on an actual, most guys say they go out on their shield and sword, but Daniel Pineda followed that all the way to the end, man. Mateus Nicolau wasn't able to get it done against Asu Amabaya, but definitely not a bad performance from him by any means. Just was not able to go ahead and get it done against a very dominant grappler. Asu just seemed to have the edge in that department, and that's kind of where it was. Jean Matsumoto also gained the victory against Brad Katona. Jocelyn Edwards had a very, very dominant performance. Jean Matsumoto overall had a very, very nice performance against a very, very hard opponent in Brad Katona to prepare for. You never really know where he's going to go. You know, he likes to kind of charge against the cage and hold that grappling, but had a very, very dominant display in terms of just being able to negate the strengths of Brad Katona and just really kind of bring the fight where he wanted it. Jocelyn Edwards as well. I mean, I know she's had her weight issues in the past, but wow, just a whole different type of breed it looked like against Tamiris Vidal. And it just, this is something that you kind of see in terms of the UFC, the women's bantamweight division, even sometimes the flyweight. You see kind of a new rise sometimes once these ladies kind of get the weight cuts right, they get everything dialed in terms of their nutrition, and maybe being around that UFC PI has just really helped Jocelyn Edwards. I know that she is from originally Panama, but I believe she does train in the Las Vegas or Florida area, so you know she's not very far from a UFC PI if she ever does need it. I mean, I know UFC always is kind of bringing fighters in to be able to go ahead and get work done at the PI if it is needed, especially in a case like Jocelyn Edwards. And she was, I believe, on a 2-fight skid. So this is a fight that she needed to win. Tamiris Vidal just didn't have what it took to get the win up against Jocelyn Edwards. And this one just did not seem like she was, the lights were really turned on in terms of her performance out there. Elise Reed also gained a very dominant win against Jessica Penne. Melissa Martinez, I stuck with her, gained the victory. I believe that she should have. I mean, I don't know how that was not a finish with the body shot that she landed on Elise Ardeline. I think they called it a groin shot, which, like, I mean, anatomy lesson. I don't know. Like, the groin shots in women's MMA, I feel a lot more different than the groin shots that would be taken in obviously male mixed martial arts. So you guys can go ahead and watch the clip. I'm not going to try and have the UFC take down my video. I already don't grab thousands of viewers, not trying to have them go ahead and take down this video, but Melissa Martinez landed a clean knee on Elise Ardeline, I believe in the 3rd round or 2nd round, and it should have been all she wrote, but instead referee said that it was a groin shot, called the fight, and gave Elise some time to go ahead and grab her breath, and then, I mean, she still wasn't able to go ahead and grab the decision. I believe Melissa Martinez had done too much at that point for even judges to kind of look at it that way. So that's kind of where I'm just drawing this confusion, drawing a real big cloud. But it definitely, I mean, congratulations to Melissa Martinez on earning that victory. Had a very, very good performance. Austin Lane had the kind of shocking performance of the night, the former Jacksonville Jaguar. And once again, shout out to my guy Mills over there, big Jacksonville Jaguars fan, was able to get the win against Robelis de Spain. That was something that a lot of people did not expect, especially with Austin Lane's style. I mean, he loves to go in there, loves to charge forward, loves to bring it to you, and you've seen that a little bit in terms of Robelis trying to kind of get Austin in that dance, but Austin was not having any sort of liking to it. He brought it straight to the ground and was able to go ahead and grab that victory against Robelis de Spain. Robelis de Spain kind of on a hot seat now in the UFC. Has dropped 2 in a row to Waldes Cordes Costa, and then now Austin Lane, 2 of the probably non-ranking heavyweights in terms of flashy guys, so definitely not the brightest look for Robelis de Spain. We'll see if he can kind of get back on the wagon here looking forward. If you fancy didn't know, though, also going to be going over there to the Visalia area, commentating 559 Fights 109. It's crazy to think that I've been working for them since, I mean, I believe the 90s, but we have an absolute amazing card as well for this one, and I believe that you fans are really going to love what we got coming up here in terms of the special guest that I was able to go ahead and garner for this lovely Wednesday afternoon. A former champion over there at A1 Combat is the likes of Ramon Cornejo. He's going to be taking on Isaiah Walls in our main event, along with George Burgos and Paul Furr, a matchup that has been kind of brewing for quite some time now over here in the California amateur scene. Now, finally taking place for that 559 Fights Flyweight Championship. Brianna Stevens looking to possibly earn her 2nd mixed martial arts win against Jasmine Heraldez. she's from what I've heard, a very, very bright prospect coming out of that Los Angeles area. But Brianna Stevens had a very nice showing against a former collegiate wrestler her last time out. So possibly looking to build up on that 2-0. Jasmine looking to break into the mixed martial arts scene over here in the state of California. Joshua Simpson looking to take on Adrian Reyes. And I mean, I got to speak with Josh a little bit earlier this week, and he kind of told it to me best. He thinks this is going to be a stand 'em up, bang 'em fight, and I completely agree with them. I know that both these guys have showed that they can grapple in a lot of their fights, but man, I really, really think that there's going to be just a whole new level of striking being shown on display over there at the Visalia Convention Center. So make sure, if you have not already, to make sure and buy your tickets. We got tons of 559 Bites fans' favorites: Johnny Reyes, Chris Chapa, Moses Contreras. The list goes on and on. I can just go on and on throughout this card, but definitely a stacked one that we have in store for you over there at the Visalia Convention Center, October 25th. Make sure to buy your tickets. If you are not going to be buying your tickets and attending in person, make sure you go ahead, download the Zine app, or go ahead and get MyTV53. We'll go ahead and get you watching live at 7:30 p.m. for that main card. We now take it over to our first interview of the day. It's always a pleasure when I get to have this gentleman on. He's one of the most, probably bright men in terms of the mixed martial arts scene in the state of California, and always a pleasure to get to have this man on my program, Mr. Tom Anderson over there out of the lovely 916. How you doing today, my man?
I'm good. You said I was bright. I appreciate that.
It's always a great pleasure to have you on, my man. How's everything been going over there for you? I know that you have been very busy kind of getting this next card ready and getting just everything kind of going for this one. How's everything been going in the route to this one? And just, go ahead and give the fans a breakdown, man, because I think that they're going to be pretty excited when they hear some of the names that you're adding on.
Yeah, well, the main event, Kevin Felipe and Nick Maximov, that's huge. They're fighting 195 pounds. My super middleweight title that I created, because I thought we have a lot of guys that can fight in that. So anyways, Kevin's holding the title, and he's taking on Nick Maximov, who's 9-2. His only 2 losses were in the UFC. He was like 3-2 in the UFC. He's coming off a win. He was fighting over at Fury, so we got him for this. He's originally from Chico, so he's got a ton of fans coming. Kevin's got a ton of fans coming. This is gonna be great, man. It's gonna be awesome main event. We got Hector Fajardo and Cesar Hernandez as the feature bout. Hector always puts on a great show, always great striking. So it's a good card. I just lost Ben Reese. Ben Reese just pulled like 10 minutes ago with an injury. So now I'm on the hunt for a replacement to fight Carlos Figueroa.
Is that a little bit of some breaking news developing over there in the A1 combat scene, man? That's a crazy drop. Especially too, again, to speak to Carlos Figueroa a little bit in the lead up to this one. He seems very motivated. I'm pretty sure he's sharing that with you in the lead up to this one. He just seems like a guy that's ready to burst almost, in terms of the mixed martial arts scene.
Well, he's had 2 big wins, 2 first round. I think one was like a 25-second KO. The other one was like in 35. So he has 2 big, splashy wins in our cage, and he's ready to get back in there. And that Ben Reese fight had pulled in the past, I want to say about 4 months ago, and it's kind of been floating around. And then Ben came back from England, and he was here, so we were ready. Everybody's training, and then he had some training injury today. I got the call from his manager. And I let Carlos know, and he's not too happy, but as any fighter is, when you lose your opponent. So I'm on the hunt. There's a bunch of guys out there. I'm just kind of looking around, see what makes sense, what would be an exciting fight.
What would you say is speaking in terms of matchmaking and just trying to build a card, what would you say has been the most challenging development? And you have only been a promoter here in this mixed martial arts game for a couple of years now. How has it been now, kind of getting your feet wet, and not only that, but you're seeing a lot of success in terms of the mixed martial arts world?
Yeah, I produced I promoted my first kickboxing show back in '96, right? So I've been around for a while, and I've been a promoter for a long time, doing 600 concerts and all that shit. But yeah, but MMA. And then once I got into matchmaking, man, it's been a challenge. I've been holding my own. I put on some really great fights, just doing a lot of homework, watching a lot of tape. It is very challenging on the regional level because it is the regional level. It's not the UFC. I'm not calling shots. I have a very limited sphere of influence. And you're competing with a lot of other shows. You're competing with everybody. Scott Coker's got a regional show now, and LFA comes rolling through town. Lights Out and Up Next and Cage Warriors and all these, and then and that's just in California. So it's always a scramble. You have to really lean on your relationships with the coaches and with the managers, and what's good about our show is, like, I'm sitting there watching the fights, and I know exactly, based on the outcome of what's happening in front of me, oh, this guy should fight this guy. Oh, this guy should, depending upon what happens, right? It's easy to do, like for us, but then when you're putting say a 10 bout card together, it gets challenging because you're having to throw some money at it sometimes, and you'll put a card together and then you'll lose guys, just like what happened today. I mean, it's not going to change. So yeah, fun matchmaking 24/7, baby. It never stops, man. Christmas morning, people are calling me to make fights. My birthday, it doesn't care. It is a hungry beast, man. So I managed to put some good relationships together. And the more relationships I have, the easier it's getting, right? Like, just like anything else. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm looking for Carlos Figueroa's next opponent.
I think one big fight that, besides from that, I mean, spectacular main event and that co-main event that you were able to put together between Kevin Felipe and then Hector Fajardo over there. But another big fight I think possibly a lot of fans are looking at is that Bakhtang Chukwudze fight after that guillotine finish over Star Charles. And then Oseamon Olahalan, the training partner over there for Anthony Hernandez for his last fight, had a great, I was just speaking about it, had a great dominant performance against Michelle Pereira. So it's, I'm now looking at this fight. I'm having red exclamation points circling. I'm doing all I can.
Yeah, that's gonna be a badass. Bakhtang's something else, man. Like, I've watched that highlight finish a few times with Star Charles, and it was just like, it was great. It was great. He's a handful, that kid, man. And also, yeah, he's a handful too. So yeah, that's gonna be a banger. I think Benny Orozco and Tyson, that's another good one. Like, Benny's good, man. I mean, he's got a gas tank on him. So I'm very curious to see. And people have been raving about Tyson, and so yeah, I think that's going to be a good fight too.
And he was one of those guys that came up on the A1 amateur scene, I believe, as well, right? Tyson Kuhlheim.
Yeah, and the fact that he was willing his pro debut to take on Benny, I was like, dang, good on you, man. Good on your team. Like, let's do this, man. Like it's. I get, and that's part of matchmaking is just watching some of the gamesmanship, some of the managers, some of the coaches play, right? And then it dawned on me the other day, and I was like, oh yeah, well, the coaches have a business to run, right? So if you bring up a crew of fighters and you go out and you take all tough fights and they all lose, that's not good for business. It's just not. So that kind of opened my eyes to some of the bullshit I put up with this guy doesn't want, this guy wants to fight the ring card girl because he needs a win. It's like, dude, that's not happening on our show. But as I get deeper and deeper and deeper into matchmaking, I'm, these epiphanies happen. And now I understand, oh yeah, this coach doesn't want to take this fight because if he comes back, that's not good for membership. That's not good to bring people into the gym, right? Which I understand it. I'm a small businessman too, right? So it's just weird. Like, you start to, you really start to see how this MMA business works. Like, I know the promoter side, I know the financial side, which a lot of people don't get, It's like, all the things that I'm responsible for. and then all the things that the manager's responsible for, and what his motivations are, what the coach is responsible for, and what they're, so everybody has, different motivations and stuff. So it is interesting. That never even dawned on me before,
It's
like,
something that's a right point for you to bring up because I think that's something that even fight fans don't think about, in terms of matchmaking when they're watching cards. They may think like, oh, why doesn't this guy get matched up with this guy? But like how you're stating, there's a whole different, you can say it's politics, but it's a whole different realm of kind of things that go into everything. And I feel like unless you're in somebody like your shoes, you're not really seeing every single realm. So it's very interesting to kind of see your perspective on everything.
yeah, losses are bad for business, bro. Losses are bad for. I get that, but if you're confident in your fighter and your fighter's a badass, you don't care. You're like, yeah, I'll fight that dude, no problem. We'll smoke him
And
because this guy's good. My kid's good. I trained him right. He's a killer, and we're not. So when Tyson took that fight with Benny, I was like, damn, dude, right on, man. Like that, not a lot of people I think would have taken that fight.
I I agree with you. I think that's a very tough fight, especially to take in your debut, like how you're saying, for going into the professional scene. And I mean, once you go pro, they say you can never go back, as they say. And even looking now at your amateur card, because like how we were speaking, like we've spoken the last couple of times, Aaron Rand has done an absolute bang up job of just making sure that these like amateurs going into the pros are just prepared to their fullest, because this amateur card looks absolutely amazing as well. You got Ian Russell taking on Ryan Ferdinand for that light heavyweight championship.
That's a great fight, man.
And then you got Eddie McCleary, Joshua Roleg, and I mean, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up Ethan Richardson after earning that finish last time against a judo black belt. Like, I mean, this undercard is almost just as stacked as the main card. I would say.
Aaron is as immersed in MMA as I think anybody I've ever met, man. He's training, he's matchmaking, he's constantly continues to educate himself. I teach him what I can about the financial side, like for the pro side, and how the mechanics and what we need to make a show work, and what the expectations are and everything else. So yeah, no, he's really good, man. I could see him being, like a standout matchmaker as in the pro business, as he moves along in his career, for sure, because he loves the sport. I mean, he trains. I can't say enough. He's super organized too. I can't say enough good things about Aaron. He's awesome. I'm so happy he's part of our team. You know,
And
really.
he's part of one of the reasons why we got a matchup on that pro card as well. I mean, he was able to bring Christopher Fernandez into the kind of stratosphere against another kind of stand him and bang him guy in Pedro Juarez. That's got to be another one you're super excited about, right?
Yeah, man. So Pedro's fighting he's doing a boxing debut Friday night down in Modesto. He's got a great stand up. But then also I was talking to his coach. It's like, how's this going to impact his performance on our show? And then his coach gave me a lot of insight as to how that works. Right? If this happens, if he gets a cut, 11 days to heal. If he gets this, da da da, and that was great. We're constantly educating ourselves in the sport. Like there's so much stuff. I don't, I know this much compared to, a lot of the guys been around for, or even like Faber, right? I mean, I wish I could borrow some of his knowledge, but anyway. So to get back to your point, yeah, Pedro's good. We're going to see how he boxes on I think Friday night, and then he's going to come in and see how he does against Chris.
It's going to be one hell of a fight, and I think that's another one that fans are already not circling on their cards. It's those are the first two fights to go ahead and kick off the main card over there. That's a hell of a way to go ahead and head into the UFC Fight Pass, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's a banging show. I mean, yeah, it's our last show of the year. There's tons of UFC people are going to be there, and a lot of special guests, and I'm excited. We've worked really hard this year, and this is our final show of the year. And I think we can stand back and say, you know what, for our third year in business, we did a great job. Like we really did, like the whole team. So yeah.
I know that they're, like how you said, possibility of a couple of special guests. Anybody that you want to name off kind of right now for some of the A1
Well,
Combat
I
fans
mean,
to get excited about?
any given show, Clay Guida's there, Josh Emmett's there, Andre Feely's there sometimes, Max is there, Fluffy's there. I mean, there's Aspen's there. I mean, there's just all, tons of people are always, and we never advertise it, right? Which I probably should, but I haven't in the past. I mean, they're just there, they just coming up with a lot of them bring their kids and stuff, and they're just there to watch the fights, man. So, and they interact with the fans and take photos and stuff. So that's their own gig. But I'm glad to have them there. It's cool. It's really
And
cool.
I feel like they appreciate that as well. Is that you don't use it as a marketing tactic. You're not like, hey, I'm bringing in this guy. This guy's coming into the show, and he's gonna bring his family, because like how you said, oftentimes a lot of the times, I mean, even last time Max Griffin, when we got to commentate on that card together, he was just kicking it with his son, and so I told him, I'm like, hey man, I appreciate you taking the time away and going and hopping on the desk with me, but still, like, it's a very much of a kind of different environment that I feel A1 Combat brings in terms of just the family oriented. I know MMA is going on in the cage, but you have a lot of families, a lot of people that bring out their kids to those events. What does that kind of mean to you as a promoter, that not only the crowd wants to watch it, but parents are bringing their kids in, people are bringing their young adults in to go ahead and watch the sport and get to experience it at the Hard Rock Live?
Yeah, it's a good feeling, man. It's a safe space. I've had a lot of people comment that, man, they've been to MMA shows and they didn't really feel safe because they're like little factions of people, and it seemed really like kind of like something could pop off at any second, and we don't have that. I've had 2 fights, 30 shows we put on, including the Muay Thai shows and the amateur shows and all the firepower shows and everything else. 30 shows, 2 fights in the crowd, and they were both girls.
And that's, mind you, that you've had, some of 209's finest come in. You've had Nate Diaz, you've had Gilbert
Yeah,
Melendez, you've had all kinds of personalities kind of just go and enter this bubble together. And I like how you said, no kind of conflicts have arisen in that sense.
yeah, we've hosted over 40,000 fans, according to our numbers on Eventbrite. Yeah, no problems. Everybody's cool, man. I think it's just a cool vibe at our shows. It's safe. I mean, the Hard Rock's a $58 million venue, so it's nice. Everything's new. It's well thought out. The security guards are nice. The ushers are nice. The bartenders are nice. Our crew's nice. You got Favorite running around, taking pictures with everybody, and just kind of, it's just like a cool vibe, and great fights. And I like the fact that the amateurs get to fight in that environment too, like they get to walk out in the big stage in front of 2,000 people, and Herb Dean or Mike Beltran, or, they have like famous refs, and, the video production, and there's 18 guys on the video crew, and they're getting everything filmed. And, I think it's cool for them to, and if maybe that helps motivate them in some manner to continue to fight, or, I think that's good. I'm happy. I'm happy that I can, like be the ringleader, or whatever you want to call me, to present the sport in that fashion. It's very professional. We keep the back room extremely professional, and safe for the fighters. And that's a big deal to me. I want people to come and have a good time. I don't want to have to worry. I don't want them coming to our shows thinking, oh gosh, I hope I don't get in a fight here in the crowd. You know.
No, that's never a good. It's never a good time,
Yeah.
especially when you're
How am
trying
I
to
gonna
watch
make?
them going down.
How am I gonna make money off unsanctioned fights, bro?
Yeah, no, you got to get them taped up or something, man. I mean,
Yeah.
if they're gonna be happy in the crowd, might as well make some money, right?
Yeah.
But just to continue on with our conversation a little bit, moving forward into this 2025 year, I know you said you have some big plans going into this upcoming new year. What are some things that you maybe possibly want to reel in some fans in? Maybe get the fans a little bit hyped in going into 2025. I know you said it's the last show of the year, so they're gonna have a little bit of time to kind of get to sit on this and really get hyped up for that January show once the time does come.
Yeah, I think our first show is gonna land probably third week of February, somewhere in there. Um, we're working around a lot of holds at the venues right now. I mean, kind of the end of the year is a reset, and we're going into the second the second year of this current contract with UFC Fight Pass. That's exciting. We're looking at the fighters, like, possible people to get on Contenders in 2025. And so those are the guys that you want to get fights, right? I mean, that's our deal with Fight Pass is you guys find the talent, you guys develop the talent, and we'll take them. And we'll pay you to broadcast your show, right? That's fair. And that's what we do. So we're always looking for who's going to be on the lineup. The first year we had Peyton, and this year we had 3 guys on Contenders, and then of course Ryan Loder on Ultimate Fighter. And so we're just continuing down that path. That's my job, is to develop talent. That's it.
Are you going to be watching that LFA 198 card over there in Los Angeles, possibly over there for your champion, Christian Avalos? I know he's claimed that he wanted to take on that guy over there at LFA. Lightweight championship is coming into your district. Richie Lewis and Richie Miranda going at it for that 155 belt. Is there a possibility we ever see those kind of 2 champions collide? I know that you expressed interest in kind of testing the waters before with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the different organizations on Fight Pass have their own, they have their own opinions about doing that, about bringing my champion versus your champion. I've been talking with Anthony Pettis about that. It's like, hey, let's do a show in Vegas. You bring your 5 or 6 best guys. I'll bring my 5 or 6 best guys, and let's do it. And that's been kind of an ongoing conversation that we've had, and it still may happen. But I haven't had any offers directly to have my champions fight, on another show like that. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I mean, Christian Avalos is kind of one of those guys that you mentioned may possibly be on that short list for the Contender Series in this next possible year. And if Kevin Felipe or Nick Maximov is able to get a victory come November 15th, possibly we could be seeing Nick punching his ticket back into the UFC now with a couple of victories on the regional scene, and then Kevin Felipe has just been on a different type of tear as of late in terms of knocking people out. Man, that guy's on a different one as of late.
Yeah, I think definitely Christian for sure, 100%. Goes to Contenders. He's another guy. He's not afraid to fight anybody. Terrence Saturn, absolutely. He's 7-1 now. Definitely be on Contenders, in my opinion. I mean,
it's a shocker he hasn't got signed yet, in my opinion. I was surprised that we haven't seen his name kind of in circulation just in general, like late notice kind of registration for a fight, because he's been someone that on 125 in terms of regional scene, been tearing it up. Sometimes it's like hard to think that he's almost not there yet.
Yeah, no, you watched the last fight. I think he could have beat anybody.
Nope. You still there, Tom? Sorry.
Yeah,
sorry.
Terrence. Yeah, sorry. This phone stuff. It's connected to my laptop. Anyways.
No worries.
Yeah, he could have beat anybody that night, in my opinion. He looked so good, man. Everything, kicks, strikes, everything. He was like, "I'm not leaving here without the belt, dude." So get ready.
No, I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. I think he, as you stated, looked just as good, if not better, than a lot of the guys that are possibly getting that call up now. And just like how you stated, I think he's definitely going to be one of those names, especially alongside Christian Avalos. And then, you have so many guys over there that are possibly on that list for Contender Series. And then also, you got Billy Brand and Pedro Juarez also possibly maybe looking for a fight in the coming months to try and make their ticket back into the UFC, especially after their performances on Contender Series against some pretty top-notch prospects.
Yeah, I think our bantamweight division is gonna explode again this year. It did the first year, and then it kind of we lost some fighters. But yeah, I think the bantamweights will be on fire again this year. Definitely, the 170s will be on fire this year. The featherweights we always have a lot of good featherweights around. So yeah, I'm just trying to, like, my job too is I have X amount of resources. I have X amount of bouts I'm going to do, like, say 6 shows let's say there's 7 bouts, right? So you start breaking it down. Like I have so many slots, I have so much money, and where am I going to focus my resources, right? So you can't, there's some fights. Yeah, I'm going to do this bout just because I want to see what happens. But day to day business, it's like, okay, well, keep putting resources into your featherweight division. Keep develop because you got 3 or 4 guys that could end up on contenders. So let's get all the featherweights fighting. Get your hands on good opponents and put some great featherweight fights. You know what I mean? So I've learned that in the last 3 years. It's like you really gotta start narrowing down and be strategic with how. And I've got some good advice too for some people who've been in the business a long time. They told me that they're like, you really need to focus on what you're doing because your job is to produce champions that will go up the you know um and let's say I'm on UFC Fight Pass, I don't send anybody contenders. We're not going to be sticking around very long. You know what I mean? Like they're going to be like, "Hey, you're not doing your job, buddy." So that's where it's at. And I think just sharing this information on your show is good, just to get it to the fighters and the managers and the coaches, because some of them understand, but some of them don't. You
No,
know.
and I think it's something that, like how you stated, a lot of people may have knowledge about it, and some may don't. But it's almost like that WEC mindset in terms of the UFC. The UFC, when they purchased the WEC was only putting on fights with, I believe they had like the whole entire, they had light heavyweights, so on and so forth. UFC told them, hey, just go ahead and give us the lighter weight classes, give us 155s and downs, and that obviously helped with the rise of stars like Gilbert Melendez, and then you've seen guys like Uriah Faber, you've seen the young births of stars like Dustin Poirier start from the WEC, and then now we've seen a blossoming in terms of regional promotions, and now A1 Combat being alongside that. But it's kind of interesting, like how you said, it's like focusing on key areas, because that some guys are going to have a better heavyweight division, that some guys may have a better light heavyweight division, or so on and so forth. But that, hey, we got a lot of guys at 145, we got a lot of guys at 135. We got to make it work.
Yeah, exactly. And I've sent great fighters over to other promotions and say, you know what? I don't have a lot of 205s, dude. I just don't. I will be struggling to find you fights, but this other guy who's also on Fight Pass, he's got a huge 205 division. You should honestly go over there. I just want to see these guys make it, man. I just want to, help where I can and guide people where I can. I mean, I think another good piece of advice I can share is fighting out of your division. Like you should probably think about staying in whatever division you're going to fight in, and not going up, like say you're featherweight, not going up to 155 just because you want to fight, because matchmakers look at that. They said, well, why did he fight at this weight? Did he not make weight? What happened?
And it's just a short glance. It's not like you
Yeah,
guys are
it
able to
doesn't.
always do the in depth.
They're not going to look at it and say, oh, that's good, he fought out of his division. That's not a good thing, generally speaking. I mean,
No.
yeah, and guys are like, man, I didn't want to wait for a fight anymore. They offered me this, so I took it.
Is there any kind of closing comments that you wanted to end off the call with today in terms of A1 Combat 25 going down over there November 15th? I mean, A1 Combat just in general. Anything that you kind of wanted to end off the call with here today, Tom? It's been an
Yeah,
absolute pleasure to get to have you on, man.
man, it's always nice to talk to you. I appreciate what you're doing, and it's great. And you do a great job at it. No, I come to the show. If you haven't been to one of our shows, come and check it out. Say hi. I mean, they're great fights. A lot of really cool people. A lot of fun-loving people. People are there to have a good time, and we do a great job putting on a great show, with a lot of respect to everybody, the fans, the fighters, the coaches, the sponsors. Everybody is treated very well, and yeah, it's cool, man. If you're not coming, you're missing out. If you're an MMA fan, for sure, you need to come to our shows and check it out.
If you're in the 916-209, I mean, even if you're in the 559, you're willing to
Yeah,
go
drive
ahead,
a
have
little
a
bit,
little,
man.
have a
I
little
drive
bit of
all over
fun.
California to go to shows. It's fun, man. Take a road trip.
Hell yeah, it's always a great time, especially when you're getting to watch some great fights over there going down at A1 Combat. Thank you so much for your time today on the program, Tom. And it was just an absolute pleasure to get to have you, my man. Thank you. You're always welcome whenever you want to go ahead and break some news over here, man.
All right. Thanks, man.
Alrighty, brother. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Michael Hernandez over here with course, Tom Anderson in the 916 area of Galt, California. Always a great time getting to speak to my guy, Tom Anderson, over there. I mean, he's probably one of the most, like, if I'm telling you guys, he really does care for the fighters. Like, if I could say what he does for, like, all the guys in terms of A1 combat, in terms of the referees, in terms of making everybody all cleared, everything, making sure the show is going smoothly. Tom Anderson is the man over there in the 916. So always grateful to have him on the program. Always going to be grateful to give him a platform to speak about that upcoming show. And if you guys are not going to be over there, make sure that you're going to be following me, MLH Media, MLHmedia.mma on Instagram. I'm going to be posting those post-fight interviews as they come along on October 25th. It'll be a great time over there. On November 15th, going to be a great time over there. October 25th is what I was going to be referencing next in terms of 559 Fights 109. Going to be commentating that show. Can't wait for that to be going all down over there. But we still got a couple of great interviews in store for the show here today. Had a great conversation with my guy, Dylan Napoleon, over there out of the Connecticut area. Always a great time getting to speak to him, whether it be just on a phone call, whether it be through text. I mean, my man has been absolutely working. And he's been someone that has been a true testament of just hard work in this sport, man. Like, I truly encourage you guys, if you have not got to follow this guy's career yet, make sure you're following him at Dylan Napoleon MMA. Obviously, it's going to be up during our interview, and I'm going to be showing up some of his work, man, because I feel us journalists, you know, it's not often that we get some of our work highlighted, man. So I wanted to go ahead and show you some of that stuff that he did within that show as well. So make sure that if you are not following him already, you go ahead and do that. But I'm going to go ahead and show you guys just, I mean, one of the most, like, bang up jobs in terms of a question that I've ever seen happen in the MMA sphere. And it's not only because he's someone that I've known for some time, but he was just, this question was probably, if not one of the most quoted interviews, it's going to be in the future years. So let's just go ahead and take a look here, y'all.
This question is for Junior, and you said yesterday that Raquel wasn't a good representative.
I'm going to go ahead and fast forward over here to his discussion with Mr. Khalil Roundtree.
Talked about all the adversity that you had to come throughout your mixed martial arts journey. You know, seeing your face on all these posters, being on this stage just a few days ahead of that opportunity, challenge for the title. How does it make you feel?
I would say, at the moment, the main thing I'm thinking about is like, ask yourself this question, right? Everybody in the crowd, ask yourself this question. Like, what do you want in life? Like, what do you actually want? Not material, right? Not material. When it comes down to like a feeling, a vision that you see of yourself, what do you want and what's stopping? Because that's what I'm asking myself right now. And that's what I've asked myself all the way up until this point. What's stopping me from getting what I want? For me, the answer has been myself. I think that it's the same for a lot of people. A lot of times it's ourselves that's in front of us, that's stopping us. So for me, it's like I've overcome that so many times, and I'm at this point right now. And it's still a challenge. The challenge is not done. I got the scariest man in the division right here, and we got to face ourselves on Saturday. So it means a lot, man. Like I'm continuous work. I'm continuously working, and I'm going to continue to work. And you know, like as good as it feels right now, and as big as this moment is for me, I know that it's not the end, and I'm just going to keep on trucking. So I'm here. You know.
Absolutely inspirational stuff over there from Khalil Roundtree, my guy Dylan Napoleon. We now look to take it into the interview with my guy over there, Mr. Dylan Napoleon out of Cage Side Press. Take a look. And it's your MLH Media UnCensored, episode 4 here today. And I'm here today with a member of the media scene. I know I often have not been able to bring on members of the media scene because we're often so damn busy. But Dylan Napoleon, my man, how you doing today, brother?
I'm good, man. It's great to be here. Always appreciate talking to you, whether it's a podcast or like we've done previews in the past. We've done a couple different kind of styles of this, but very happy we can get it done, man. I appreciate you being so patient with me, man. I have, you know, as I told you or you saw, I have, you know, I work 40 hours and I do all the MMA stuff on the side. So sometimes it catches up to me. But man, appreciate you being patient, and of course, very happy to be here with my guy MLH.
It's a pleasure to have you on the program, my man. I mean, you have been absolutely killing the MMA game, and that's just not something that I've been seeing. I mean, the whole entire MMA community has been seeing it. I mean, I'll play a couple of clips within this episode to make sure to remind people of my guy over there's work. But let's just talk about the most recent pay-per-view, because I know you had your big showing at the New Jersey one. Sean Strickland, that's obviously a huge moment in your kind of journalism footsteps. But let's talk about this last trip, man, because I feel like this was probably, if not the biggest one of your career so far, definitely a
100%.
pretty big night.
Yeah, it definitely was the biggest one. You got it, man. But yeah, it was Salt Lake City. I'll give a brief rundown, then I'll answer whatever you want to know about it. But I was out there to cover UFC 307, Alex Pereira versus Khalil Roundtree, and it was an amazing fight week. I was there on behalf of Cage Side Press, and man, it was a great fight week. I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit more, so I'll leave it at that. But then after that, I transitioned into Karate Combat. I was working for them, helping their production for most of that second week that I was there. And yeah, man, it was a good experience. Karate Combat has a great, staff, great flow. They do things really nicely over there. I was impressed really like a lot. And yeah, it was a good week helping them as well. It was a different kind of experience. And I'm sure you got some questions about that. So I don't want to, spill it all here, but it was a great experience working for them and being a part of their crew.
Hey, man, you take the ball and you run with it however you want, my man. Any question, you go ahead and you run the field with my brother. There is no worries.
Too. I know how it is when they just answer your questions before you can even get them all.
No, you are always all good, my man. Always all free to answer any way you feel. But guess what? I really was just super interested in how you were able to balance that, because, I mean, talk about going from being a media member, which is oftentimes a lot of people don't discuss, of how you have to go into events and how you have to act professionally, and the way you can't cheer on your favorite fighters, and people think, oh, we're fans of MMA, but at the end of the day, we go into these events as professionals and we have to handle ourselves a certain way. But then you're going and working on the production side the next day. Was that a little bit of a different type of feel? Because I feel a lot of guys don't get that type of experience.
Yeah, so it was, to my benefit, it was super nice, because the first week I was literally just only worried about the UFC. Karate Combat event was the following week, so it was pretty much in chronological order. I was able to, literally all my focus on UFC. Then the second the UFC event ended, I was like, all right, well, now it's time to kind of get into Karate Combat groove, and that's what I did. So it was good. If both of them were like doing their fight weeks, if the fights were the same week, it would have been pretty tough. Maybe I probably wouldn't even have been able to do it, because I would have had to be at work literally for Karate Combat while I was supposed to be at pressers or stuff like that. So probably wouldn't even have worked if that were the case, to be honest. But the way that it was kind of formulated and operated with the order of events, 1 week apart, it worked out perfectly. I was able to focus on UFC, take care of business there, attend all those events, and then I transitioned right into Karate Combat.
Hey, I know that we would all love to say that the schedule was made for my guy Napoleon over there, but I think they had a family certainly in mind in the Pereiras over there. I mean, you had one of them performing the UFC 307 pay-per-view. Obviously, everybody knows Alex Poetan Pereira was able to get that win against Khalil Roundtree, but then his sister as well competed for Karate Combat. How was that to be able to see both sides of it? I mean, and you're from Connecticut, so you definitely have your fair share of experience with Alex Pereira and that whole team.
So I appreciate you asking, because it was like, honestly, and you hit the nail on the head a while back. It's like you can't really be cheering people on, but it was super like heartwarming, if you will, to see what they did out there. At the end of the day, I come from Connecticut, where I see them, almost every month at the gym, and I couldn't help myself but to kind of, be rooting for them. At the end of the day, that's what it was. Be full transparency, just be around these people. You grow a little bit of a relationship, and you can't help but want to see them succeed, So it was really nice to see Alex do his thing. He was, calm, cool, and collected all fight week. It was awesome to see him do his thing and put together that fight. And then the following week, what his sister did was amazing too. I was a part of that fight week, like really in depth. I was with them filming in the gym for one of the days. I was at the press conference. So I got to see it all, man. And it was like, it was super, like I said, heartwarming is like the only word. Like, you can't help but to be happy with the amount of hard work they put in and stuff like that. to see them, kind of make that come full circle was awesome,
And then especially too with a lean story, and then you have Alex's story. Like it's just so crazy to see where they came from, moving to America to obviously train with Glover, and then now just going and having quite the amount of success over whether it be in karate combat, whether it be in Glory, now in the UFC. But speaking a little bit about Glover Teixeira, funny that we mentioned it. We have a little bit of a mutual connection. He began his time over here at the pit, over here in San Luis Obispo, now where yours truly is living. And so it's kind of interesting to see the way that MMA ties so closely in the world, because now Glover's over there training Alex and all those guys. And I swear, it's just a couple of years ago that Glover was the light heavyweight champion. So how was it for you to be in the kind of epicenter of all that in Connecticut, being with Glover, with Plinio, with all the, this is kind of the hot spot for MMA right now.
Yeah, within that specific team, 100%. Like their team is amazing from top to bottom. Like I've interviewed so many regional professional amateur fighters. People are on their way to doing what like Alex and Glover have been able to do. Man, their crop is amazing. They're just personal people. They're always down to have interviews and stuff like that. Always down to have me come in and check out the gym and record this or that. In fact, I've been able to take one of them fishing with me. Like it's just cool to have that relationship with them, and they're the highest level professional fighters in the world, doing like at the epitome of the sport. So it's just super cool to have that kind of relationship. I'm still working on building it, of course, but having them in my home state, I can't help but to put together my best work with them. Seeing what they're doing, it just kind of empowers me to take advantage what's here in my state and make the most of it. And I really do take pride on pushing their careers, because that not only are they great people, but they're amazing athletes. They're right near me, so I'd be dumb not to kind of chase that opportunity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I tell so many people too, and I go to a school full of journalists, and they often ask me, like, where can I get involved? I'm like, just look around you, and you are the perfect embodiment of that, my man. And just go ahead and speak into your roots a little bit. I know that, like how you said, you love fishing, you're 40 hours a week over there at Bass Pro Shops. This man is holding down the pyramid. And just like go into how overall you got into MMA, because I know we stated Connecticut's that hotspot for MMA, but to really get into the career that you are delving in, it definitely takes a certain type of breed. So could you just go into that and really how you dove into this whole journey, man? Because it's been a wild one to watch.
Yeah, it's a great story, quite honestly. So fishing kind of led it to what it is. I'm going to give you a full story right here. So back in, I forget, it was, at least maybe 5 to 8 years ago, probably around 6 years ago, Douglas Lima was fighting MVP at Mohegan Sun here in Connecticut. And I happened to be there with my dad for a fishing expo, a big convention. And we went to the weigh-ins, and I had never seen any MMA before. I had never seen anything, maybe on TV, but not in person. Like, it was the coolest thing in the world to see these guys facing off, especially I've watched it a couple times now. The Douglas Lima and MVP face-off was like super, super intense. And I saw it in person for the first time, and I just like instantly fell in love with MMA. I got so invested into it, started watching, as much as I could. And then I had been a fan for a couple of years. I wanted to take a step and kind of dive into the sport on the media side, the journalist side. And I started with a local kind of publication out here in New England called New England MMA. And I was working with them, covering a lot of regional events, getting credentialed through them for other stuff too. But it was a small one. It wasn't exactly what I wanted. So I changed over to Cage Side, a place that gets credentials through the UFC and stuff like that to the biggest events, and just ran with it from there. So that fishing convention being there kind of sparked my interest. And then I just kind of like, let the ball roll, snowball effect. It just got bigger and bigger. And here we are,
And that's actually wild, no, because I wouldn't have expected a fishing expo to go ahead and lead into the MMA scene for you. I know that obviously
Yeah.
fishing is a big hobby for you, and it is pretty funny that you were able to take out a couple of those pit martial artists over there from Connecticut over to the. I mean, what did you take them out to a pond, a river? Give us the scene, man. Paint the picture for us
So
all.
I took him out to a pond actually by my house. I knew that it'd be a good opportunity to try and catch some fish because they had recently been stocked with fish. Like they had, put a bunch of fish in there for people to catch. Took them there, and I had fished it earlier that day and caught a bunch. So I knew like, okay, this should be a good idea. Like we should have some luck here, right? We went over there first cast. He slings it out there. This is Wellington's Herman, by the way. He slings it out there first cast. He catches one. I was like, all right, this should be a great day of fishing, right? A couple hours at least. And bro, he took the first cast. He caught a fish. After that, didn't catch another one at all. Like no fish between the two of us. So it was insane. It was picture perfect because, like I said, first cast, one fish. We didn't get a bite the rest of the day.
Did you guys enjoy that fish after?
He did. I helped clean it. We made some memories. We got it. Nice video and stuff like that. He cleaned his own fish for the first time and everything. It was cool, man. It was a really cool experience, and of course I documented it and made a nice little video out of it.
No, I definitely think that's a pretty dope experience. And once you do get onto the West Coast, man, we're definitely gonna have to go ahead and hit one of these areas over here for fishing. I mean, Lake Tahoe is definitely a pretty
crazy trout fishing in the mountains over there.
That's what I'm saying, man. We got to go hit a spot for sure, man. It's been a minute since I've hit fishing. Shout out to Uncle Skip and my dad for bringing me out there that one time. It was a coul time. I've only gone once, but man, fishing is a different type of environment. Like I always tell people, because it's like like how you said, like I feel like that story is a perfect embodiment of fishing, because like you can really go out there and just get one pull and then be sitting for 3 hours and kind of but it's the best time, man. It's just so relaxing, and you get to watch the water. It's great.
That's exactly what happened too. We stuck around for another hour or two, chatted it up, and that was it, man. But thank God that fish came and bite on the first cast, because it would have been a miserable couple hours. I would have felt like shit having him drive all the way to me and stuff like that when I was so certain that he'd be able to catch one, and he got one. So that's what matters most,
No, 100%. It always is a good time when you get to go home with at least one fish in your drawer, and
I had
a hell of a buddy too for helping him clean it, by the way, because not a lot of guys would have done that.
Yeah, I do it all the time. In fact, I have a bunch in the freezer right now, so it's nothing to me. I had probably done it earlier that day anyway, because I told you I went fishing on my own earlier that day. I could only assume I had to do it then. So during that time of the season too, like the the springtime, when the fishing is so good, I'm always catching fish, and it's just the right time of the year. I'm like, it's second nature at that point. Like right now, if I had to clean a fish, like I'd be like, I haven't done this in a couple months, but always in the spring, I find myself doing that quite often.
I'll go ahead and keep that in mind for when you make your way over here to the West Coast, my man. But speaking a little bit more on that East Coast, I know you got another one of your Cage Side Press kind of co-workers over there, Dylan Rush, man. He's been killing it, now working over there kind of alongside Henry Cejudo, helping him produce and doing his thing over there for Pound. How has that been to kind of get to see? I know he's been making posts about it, but get to see both of your guys' kind of growth and just steadily kind of climbing through this MMA scene. Because I mean, personally, watching from the outside in, it definitely is pretty special, but from you yourself, I think the fans would love to hear how it's been.
To see Rush kind of do what he's doing, man, I couldn't be any more happy for him. Rush and I met at the first ever MMA event I had ever covered. It was the 2022 PFL playoffs were coming up on almost 2 years of me doing this, which is crazy to me. Time flies for sure, but yeah, he's always been my right-hand guy just because of the fact that he was the first guy I ever met in this, you know what I mean? And he kind of helped me do what I wanted to do, and kind of help me make some connections that probably wouldn't have, like, for example, he was at Cage Side Press well before me, recommending me and kind of giving a good, good picture of me, if you will. And yeah, he helped me land that gig, you know what I mean? Like we traveled so much together, shared so many hotel rooms and stuff like that. Like, that's my man right there. And for him to be doing what he's doing, I couldn't be any more happy. He's working with Henry Cejudo right now. Literally at this moment, he's with Henry. He's with Kamaru Usman. I think he's with Donald Trump Jr. I forget who. No, he's seeing Mike Tyson today. I think Donald Trump Jr. was last night. Like, he's all over the place. I think he's been on a plane every single day since last Sunday. So yeah, man, he's killing it. I couldn't be any more happy because I know he wishes the best for me too. So to see him doing what he's doing, it's perfect, man. He's making money. He's with some of the best in the game. What's better than that,
And I can attest to that, man, because seeing Dylan Rush, like, just, I mean, not only Dylan, but Dylan Rush, that's Dylan to the second power, man. Both of you gentlemen have just really, like how I said, absolutely flourished and just have developed so well. If we were in 2K, if we were in Madden, man, you guys got that superstar development right now, man, just only rising. But just a little bit more questions as we go on forward here in the call. I mean, can you kind of give fans the environment, how it is, not only for the UFC events, but like give the breakdown of a week through how it is? Because I feel like a lot of fans, like they see the pressers, they see this, they see that, but they don't see the work that goes in behind the scenes. So can you kind of give a week from maybe if you go to a PFL event or a UFC event of the exact trajectory of how everything goes from when you get there to the fight night to when you're leaving? I really think fans would be pretty interested on the media side of things.
I'll give a full breakdown. I just pulled up my calendar so I could go back and look at the first week of October. I was out in Salt Lake City, of course, UFC 307. I can go a perfect chronological order. So the event was October 5th. I arrived on October 1st, a couple days in advance. All the festivities, if you will, they begin on Wednesday, but I was flying across the country, so I needed almost a whole travel day just to get there and stuff like that, get settled in. It's not something I can do early morning just before the first event at this location. Sometimes, like close ones, 2-hour plane rides, I'll fly out real early, get there in time for the first day and stuff like that. But this one, like I said, required a whole travel day, so that's what it took. It was an 8-hour trip, Connecticut to Salt Lake City with a couple layovers, couple delays in between, the typical airport stuff. So I arrived on the 1st. I chilled out for that day. I think I got there around like 5 p.m. just relaxed. I actually met up with Rush that day because he was out there too, working for the UFC, doing embedded. He was a production assistant. Then the second was when kind of everything started. The second I did media day. That's, for people who know, that's obviously when we bring fighters in. The UFC brings all the fighters in, the main card, plus one more in that case. And the media has the opportunity to interview or ask them questions, they're sitting in front of the media. Obviously, how that is, but I don't know about everyone else. So media day, ask all the questions, finish up somewhere around 3 or 4 p.m. And then after that, it's a lot of like uploading to YouTube, uploading to Google Drives, and getting the footage back to Cage Side Press where there's people working back home, kind of creating clips and stuff like that. So
I think a lot of people just watch it from their phones, watch the media days, and they don't see the work behind the scenes. They don't see, like how you said, you're up there. I mean, you're probably staying up hours after that press conference is done or after the media day is done to just get these clips out, to get these videos out. And that's oftentimes, I feel like, some of the most time consuming things, especially in my own personal experience. I don't know if you would care to add to that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So one of the nice things about Cage Side Press is they have people working back home who are like creating the clips. So I'll give you exactly what I'm doing. So I'm asking the questions, and then as soon as they swap fighters, there's usually like 5, 10, 20 minutes in between sometimes. And during that quick little window, I'm getting the SD card out of my camera, popping a new one in, and taking that SD card back to my computer and doing a quick edit on the video, getting some logos and stuff like that in there. And then after that, I'm exporting that to, an SD card or an external hard drive. That's technical. I don't think people care about that, but I'm exporting it and uploading it to things like YouTube, where then Cage Side Press back home will take that footage, highlight the clips, grab the clips, and make those quick little edits for social media. So thank God they're doing that back home. Otherwise, that'd be a ton of work added on for me. But sometimes there's like certain clips that they don't get that I want, stuff like that. So I'll go in and make a couple quick, secondary edits and stuff like that. But a lot of it for me is really just asking the questions and then getting the footage to YouTube. After that, Cage Side can get it, the people back home can get it, and they're there to make my life a lot easier.
No, and I feel like they definitely help out a lot, but it definitely is its own amount of work when you're having to, like how you said, you're taking the SD card out. And it's a hectic environment. I mean, you got 20 other reporters in there that are also
Yeah.
doing the same exact thing, all trying to grab their own things, all trying to do their own work. So it's like I feel like the words do not go enough into the explanation of how hectic an environment that can be.
Yeah.
Especially, it seems all calm when you're watching it on TV, but it is not the calmest scene in the
There's a
world.
lot
But
of there's a lot of behind the scenes type stuff, and I just want to make sure I give you the full rundown. So that's kind of how Wednesdays usually work at a UFC pay-per-view. You know, we handle the media day, interview everybody, get the footage up, make some edits, stuff like that. Thursday is usually the press conference. So we're going to go to the press conference. Everybody, you know, a lot of people watch press conferences, so you already know what's happening. But for what I'm doing, I am asking the questions to the fighters when it's my turn, usually about 2 to 3 questions. And during the press conference, I'm doing like a lot of photography, a lot of still photos and stuff like that for cage side. That's what they look for from the press conference day, because we already get a lot of video from the media day. And then any questions from the presser that need to get posted and stuff like that, the UFC will usually supply the footage for that so they can make the edits from that. And then Friday is weigh-ins. Friday, I'm doing a lot of still photos, ceremonials and officials, a lot of still photos, getting photos for like the website articles and stuff like that. And yeah, so a lot of video fight day too, because that's all the media after the fights, the post fight interviews. And so I'm asking questions. I'm doing the same thing I am on media day. So media day and fight day, I'm doing like all the question askings and all of the uploading. Well, the other 2 days, I'm just really focused on photography, you know, still photos and stuff like that.
a lot of juggling and a lot of things that are going on, but definitely are killing it in your own right, my man. But just a couple more questions here for you today. Like, just speaking in terms of that post-fight presser and the success you've been able to have in it, man. I mean, you produced some pretty viral clips from speaking to Dana White, speaking to Sean Strickland. What do you feel like is the real key thing that maybe some other reporters don't hit on in these post interviews? Because I feel like you're able to really get something out of a lot of these guys that maybe not every single question is geared towards, and I think it gives a lot of credit to yourself, man.
So that's a great question. I appreciate that too, man. I always said it. I kind of feel like a lot of media members are out there like really just highlighting the brand, the you know, the UFC obviously, and like future fights and matchups and, you know, call outs and trying to get clickbait in that ways. But at the end of the day, these guys are human more than they are fighters. Obviously, they train, you know, as the full-time job, so they're fighters then. But in terms of like fighting, they only fight, you know, 3 times a year, so out, or maybe 5 times a year at most for a lot of people. Kevin Holland and Alex Pereira, they're superstars. They fight double that. But yeah, man, they really enjoy talking about themselves and highlighting their families, their journey and stuff like that. And one of my keys has always been just kind of personalizing or humanizing the fighters, allowing them to have an opportunity to talk about themselves and stuff like that. And I think that's one of my big keys, to be honest, is, you know, giving them the opportunity to not talk about the next guy they want to beat up, but the person they are. You know what I mean?
And I feel like you've seen that in a lot of these. I mean, even speaking to when you got that clip out of Khalil Roundtree over there at the presser, not the presser, my apologies, the pre-fight conference.
Yeah,
And just yeah, it was, I mean, probably one of the most motivational speeches. How was that hearing live?
Yeah.
Like, was that probably one of your, if not top interactions, like top 5 interactions? Because that was, I mean, I listened to that on a run later that day. Like, that's how motivating that speech was, man. It was killer.
Yeah, man. Even my brother texted me, and in the moment, I was just kind of listening and not like analyzing the words, if you will. But even my brother was like, "Holy shit, dude! Like that was so motivational and stuff like that." And I had like people texting me and stuff like that. And I even looked through some of the comment sections when people were posting that clip, and it was amazing how many people were motivated by Khalil's, you know, speech there. And to be honest, even though he did not win the fight, I feel like he backed up his words. You know what I mean? Like, if he went out there and got knocked out in round 1, I don't know if people would take what he said as seriously, but my man, he went in there and gave an absolute dog fight for 4 rounds before he got finished, and he gave everything he had. So I feel like, his performance was a good kind of testament to his words, if you will. It makes you know that this guy means what he says, you know what I mean? And
No.
yeah, man, I was just glad that Khalil could voice himself. And honestly, man, that's what I mean. Like, these guys, they want to tell you what they can do and what's going through their head rather than the next guy they want to see knocked down in front of them. You know what I mean? Yeah, they want to win fights. They want to, win championships. But at the end of the day, like, I can tell you, I can promise they love the opportunity to talk about themselves, and not in a selfish way, but just the amount of things that they've been through and, stuff like that, and just personable stuff. And that's what Khalil did, man. He gave an answer from his heart. And I'm glad that I was able to give him the opportunity to say those words that meant so much to so many people.
I think there's a prominent Mexican revolutionist back in the day. His name was Emiliano Zapata. He said, "It's better to die on your feet than to live on your knees." And
Yeah.
I feel Khalil Roundtree is the perfect embodiment of that, not only as a man, but as a fighter. I mean, to go from being a 300-pound man to wanting, a lot of the things that he expressed to, going into that fight, having all the odds stacked against him, and obviously performing the way he did, like how you stated, it just goes to state how much of that character that he was really truly able to show out there. And I mean, just going into some of the like post-fight pressers stuff that you've done as well, you got to speak to Dana White as well. You got something good out of him. That must be pretty hard, because Dana White's often an intimidating figure to a lot of these media members. How was it to kind of get that reaction out of Dana and get a little bit of a smile from the CEO?
I see your knuckles, man. You've been training. You've been hitting some pads.
No, do they look busted? Oh, Jesus Christ! No, that's from Khalil.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I didn't even see that. It's definitely not for me. I've been cold plunging, not hitting anything. Believe me,
Thank you.
I'm too old to be hitting anything.
So when you ask a question like that, man, you got a 50-50 chance. And I knew that. I knew that. I feel like I put myself in that situation a couple times. I think I did it with Sean Strickland too, and so far I'm 2-0. Thank the Lord.
2 for 2.
I remember my thoughts going into the Sean Strickland fight week. I was like, all right, man, my biggest goal is not to get fried by Sean Strickland, not to get burnt by this guy. And thank God it didn't happen. I would have been the face of getting shit talked online. I know when I ask those questions, I have a 50-50 shot. I'm taking a risk, dude. I can get absolutely screwed over and embarrassed, or I can get a good answer. And to be honest, I love this sport so much. I love what I do so much that risk is worth it to me. You know what I mean? I had a good feeling. I was probably more 70-30 on both of those. I'm not going to go out there and ask some dumb shit to get a dumb answer. You know what I mean? But I knew that I had a decent shot at, getting a good reaction or just allowing them to have some fun. Honestly, that's kind of what I was trying to do with Dana. I was just trying to make it fun. You know what I mean? And it did. It worked. So. Yeah, I took a little risk. I knew how he could be. What the fuck are you talking about? He can, he can embarrass me in front of everybody, or we can get a cool little clip, about Dana with some blood on his knuckles, and that's what it turned out to be. So I was thrilled, but to be honest, it's just a little risk. It's like, something good can come from this, something bad, and I don't know what's gonna come from it, but I feel comfortable enough to ask it,
I would definitely, in your shoes, man. I would have been on that teetering block, but a hell of a question and a hell of a way to get into the mind of that Mr. Dana White, because I definitely think he will keep an eye out for you the next time that there is a presser. But speaking a little bit more about just some of the things that you have coming up on the next year, what are some possible events that fans could expect to see Dylan Napoleon at? I know PFL's got their event today that we're speaking. They got it on Saturday, I believe, over there overseas. But what are some things that we could possibly expect to see out of Mr. Dylan Napoleon moving forward into 2025?
So at this very moment, October 18th, I'm not exactly sure, to be honest. I don't know what the rest of this year is going to look like. All I know is that I will not be traveling to any PFL events anytime soon. In terms of UFC stuff, if something comes up, if I get an opportunity, then I'm going to take advantage. That's what happened for Salt Lake City, quite honestly. Cage Side needed a guy to be there. of course I'm stepping up. You give me an opportunity to be in that room, I'm going to be there 100%. The PFL, they're out overseas right now, so I just know that's not exactly feasible at the moment. I'm not going to Saudi right now. But yeah, if it's something domestic wise UFC came up, I'd be there. Karate Combat needs some help at their next show. It's overseas. It's in Thailand. I'd love to visit Thailand, but I don't have a passport right now. I've never traveled outside the country yet, so I'm working on that to be where I'm at. And never not have a passport is pretty crazy, but it's coming. So hopefully I'll be out of here soon to check out another side of the world. But yeah, I don't know exactly. I think if something UFC comes up, I'm going to take it. If something Karate Combat comes up, I'm going to take it. But I'm also kind of focused on my own craft right now. I think it's a good opportunity without anything like lined up directly to focus on some of that stuff that I've been lacking in terms of, some skills to the game. So I want to dial in the video stuff. I sent you a picture of my new accessory, so I'm excited to check that out. I want to learn how to make some cool videos. That's kind of on the top of my mind right now. And then just getting good with the camera overall. If I can do that by the end of the year, I'll be happy. Those are some of my goals right now, is to dial in the video and the photography stuff. That's one of my biggest goals right now, and just come out 2025 like fucking fire with a camera, you know what I mean? And that's my goal, that's my plan. Work locally at some of the gyms, cover some regional stuff here in Connecticut, and get good with the camera. That's my biggest goal right now.
I think you're well on your way to that, Dylan, because
Hopefully.
I mean, just even checking out some of the stuff from the UFC 307, like some of the pictures, I was like, wow, like that face off between Roundtree and Pereira that you had got, that was killer shot, man. I'll probably throw that up just for the people to go ahead and check it out, man, because it was an absolute.
I showed this to Alex last week when I saw him in Salt Lake City, and he made me airdrop it to him. It was one of the coolest moments of my life, just knowing that he appreciated the photo too. But this right here is arguably my best photo I've ever taken. And obviously I'm showing it to you over a camera. It's not the best way to do it, but I'm going to send it to you. And if you want to include it, you're more than welcome. If you ever want to use it, you're more than welcome. But here it is.
Oh yeah. No, that's a banger picture right there, dude.
It's hard.
The brightness is a little peaking, but dude, no, that's a damn. No, I can tell, dude. The details on that one are.
Oh, there we
go. There we go. Yeah, I was gonna say I could tell the details are like good because the lighting's just super exposed on that. But dude, that's a pick right there, man. But I think you're well on your way to becoming like how you stated, even more skilled in your craft, even better with the camera than you already are. But I mean, Dylan, it's been a great pleasure to get to speak to you today. You definitely are well on your way to accomplishing a lot of these goals that you were setting forth in this call today. What are maybe some people or some entities? I know you obviously work alongside Cage Side Press, but there's a lot of people that have kind of helped you get to this point. Is there anybody that you would want to thank in terms of just the MMA career and just balancing everything? And maybe you got someone that's been helping you out at home in terms of keeping everything afloat. Anybody you want to thank on this call?
There's a laundry list, but first I just want to, and I know a lot of people do this at the end of the interviews. I'm not just doing this because it's a normal thing to do. This is the most I've ever gotten to talk about myself, man. And I really appreciate the opportunity. So first thing, I want to thank you. Obviously I know what you're about, my man. You do great work and stuff like that. So I knew I was getting into a great kind of interview podcast with you today. But this is the first time I've ever been able to really highlight what I've been up to. So I want to say thank you to you, man. Dive into what I've been up to quite a bit. Usually I'm doing what you're doing. We're always talking about, other people and stuff like that. So to be able to kind of give my perspective and highlight that, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. I like this series to what you're doing, with the pod and everything like that. But man, in terms of people to thank, first, I think I'm going to leave some. I think I'm going to forget about somebody. So don't hate me. But man, our whole list of people that me and you talk to on a daily basis, our group chat. You know what I mean? Those people are some of the most supportive people. I want to thank every single one of those people that I talk to, through Instagram and our big group chat. Only me and you really know what that means. But there's a lot of great people involved. To name a few that I talk to the most, you, Dylan Rush, Cade Morehouse, Pat Dana. Those are some of the guys I talk to the most. That's kind of my clique. You guys are my clique, kind of. But I have to thank my family too. You know, they've always supported me with this stuff. All the athletes that have ever given me an opportunity to talk to them, those people deserve a huge thank you, because without those opportunities, it would be hard to do what I do now, you know. All the gyms that have welcomed me, all the people that have really given me opportunities, the people at PFL, Bellator, who gave me the first ever opportunity to be in a newsroom like that in MMA. Because without that, I would have never had any experience to be in the UFC now, you know what I mean? So I thank them. All the people who support me on Instagram, who follow and tune in, means the world to me. You know, those people, as you know, those people fuel us.
Yeah, without no, and I always tell people all the time, like whether they come up to me in person or whether they're commenting on my stuff, like it's crazy, like how you say, like we always talk about other people's stuff, but the fact that people want to just hear us get on a camera and yap and go back and forth, that's an absolute blessing to be in the position we're in. So I'm glad that you highlighted that. I appreciate you showing love all the time. I appreciate you hopping on this call today, my man. It's an absolute pleasure to get to chat with you.
I feel
And
bad I wasn't able to get it done sooner with you, but bro, I promised when we were able to get this done, bro, this was a damn good interview from your part. The questions you ask, you know, I know, like I said, I know what you're about. You know, I already know you do great work, whether it's, you know, at in a cage, you know, after fights, post fights, you do great work, or on the side of the cage too, commentating. So I already knew what I was getting myself into. You're my guy. And I appreciate you being patient, because I knew when we were able to make this happen, the duo between me and MLH, we'd come up with something great. You know what I mean?
hey, Napoleon and MLH, man, 2025, we're coming forward. Michael Hernandez here, MLH Media
You might be
Uncensored.
sharing an apartment, my man.
That's what I'm saying. Hey, a little sneak peek for the fans at home, man. Michael Hernandez, MLH Media, Dylan Napoleon, MMA, signing out. Wow. Great time getting to speak with my guy Dylan Napoleon over there out of Cage Side Press. The mic always loves to meet me when we go ahead and head into those interviews. But now, you know, possibly going to be looking at a big card coming up on the weekend coming up here pretty soon. I mean, possibly one of the largest cards that the UFC has put on in this past year. So it's very, very interesting to see, and very, very fun to get to watch this card coming up here on October 26th, literally the day after 559 fights 109, just like how I was mentioning previously. So very, very excited to get to dive into this card with this upcoming guest, my guy over there, Mom's Basement, Tyler Little, somebody that has been very, very, very well known for his predictions in the MMA scene. So I'm very excited to get to have him on the program and get to speak with him about this card, probably one of the largest cards that we have had so far this year. So just waiting for him to go ahead and enter into the waiting room any second now when we get to speak to him. But it's going to be a great pleasure. Can't wait to get into the card here today. But, hey, man, Max Holloway, Ilya Taporia, main event, Robert Whittaker, Hamzat Chimaev in the co-main over there in Abu Dhabi. Hello, way to kick off the beginning part of your day, if I may say so myself. So very, very excited to go ahead and watch that card breakdown and watch everything go and happen over there in Abu Dhabi as the fights will look to come about over there on October 26th. Some other big ones that possibly may be in the looming over there. I mean, you have obviously Magomed Ankalaev taking on Alexander Rakic, along with Lerone Murphy taking on Dan Ige. Kind of two matchups I would say are the most prevalent in terms of where some guys can go ahead and enter into the rankings and stuff like that. I mean, Shara Bullet does have a matchup as well, but it looks like we finally got my guy over here. He's looking to join us. My man, Tyler Little, Mom's Basement. How's it going, bro?
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me, Michael. Appreciate you.
No, it's always a great pleasure to get to speak with you. I know most of the time we usually get to talk over, just over messages, over voice chats, But now getting to kind of speak with you in terms of your realm, because I feel like you're someone that I feel like you got this prediction game kind of on lock, so to speak, and you've been someone that has really, really kind of taken a rise to that. Can you kind of explain, just for the fans that maybe don't have a knowledge of the Mom's Basement MMA platform and the channel of everything you guys got going on over there, man, because I feel like you guys are developing a killer program, and just it's been on the rise.
Well, Michael, I appreciate that first and foremost. And hi, everybody. Yeah, it's been a crazy year, man. Like, really, what I wanted to do, my vision for 2024 was really to try to like figure out a way to encapsulate the UFC into what it is that I really love. And what I really love is regional MMA. Like, if you don't like regional MMA, you're not following me on Instagram. That's really ultimately what I'm about at the end of the day. So for the past several years, all I had been really doing was trying to get to know who are these regional prospects, who are these killers in A1, who are these guys in 559, LFA, etc. And then I started looking at it and I was just like, okay, but I'm kind of like neglecting the UFC. That's probably not a wise thing to do. So then I was just like, all right, well, I bet on a lot of these fights. I might as well just kind of talk through them. And the channel's really exploded. I'm really fortunate for that. We have close to 10,000 subs on YouTube, which is freaking wild. Never would have imagined that, but man, it's been a lot of fun, man. And then of course you were on the program not that long ago, and we freaking crushed that one too. So it's been a great year, man.
No, it's been absolutely. I mean, I would say it's been probably like. Would you say it's been the highlight of your year so far? Just kind of being able to really just get to see where the platform goes. Before we get into everything, man, because I like how I stated, if you guys have not been subscribed from the beginning to now watching Mom's Basement MMA channel, I just feel like it just. I can't speak enough to how well the production and everything has just been just doing so well over there, man.
Yeah, it's really just been kind of like learning, honestly, and then knowing like who you can find in this space who does things better than you. And my man Zach, 4 ounces to freedom, he is the freaking man. And honestly, I attribute a lot of the success to him because I like send him my stuff. I'm like, yo, like my thumbs aren't that great. Can you help me out? And he's the man at that stuff. He also edits stuff way better than me. So, you know, I've kind of also learned that it's okay to like teach yourself, but like as soon as you recognize somebody doing things that you really like, either A, figure it out to replicate that or to learn from somebody like that, or B, like figure out a way where you can work with them. And that's what I've been doing with Zach, and we've been absolutely crushing it.
And that you have been killing it. And I know you already got to kind of dive into this card, but I really wanted to have you on because I know that you would have some of the expertise to guide me through some of these prelims that maybe a couple people would not know. I know a couple of these names, but definitely wanted to have you on because I know you're the man for all this type of stuff. Diving into this card, my man, I mean, let's just go ahead and take it straight from the bottom up because everybody already knows about the top. You know, everybody knows about that cream and about what's going on kind of for that main card. But and I was even kind of diving into it before you hopped on the call here. What do you see from these prelims that you're really, really excited for as a fight fan? And for fight fans at home that are possibly looking to possibly get more into the UFC and get more into the weeds of these cards, what are some things that you could possibly be looking for on Saturday?
Well, really, I think one of the first fights that kind of stand out to me right off the top is Renat Fakhretdinov going up against Carlos Leal. That's a killer fight, and it's almost criminal that it's on the prelims. Carlos Leal, he was tearing it up in PFL. He has knockout wins over the Postman Taylor. And I also remember his 2 losses. He lost twice against Saad Boussi. If you watch the PFL, it's a guy you're already familiar with. A lot of knockout power, a lot of names he has on his resume. And I'm not sure exactly what the odds are now, but I want to say he's like in excess of plus 200. That's criminal. He should not be that big of a betting underdog going up against Renat Fakhretdinov. Fakhretdinov, he's an absolute G in his own right. He went up against Nicholas Dalby in his most recent contest. That was a split decision that he ended up winning. I thought he lost that fight. I thought Dalby, I thought Dalby won personally. This is going to be a really close fight. I guess if I had to pick who I think is going to win, I think I'm going to go with the chalk. I think I'm going to pick Fakhretdinov. But listen, if you're a gambling man, plus 220, plus 240, whatever it is on Carlos Leal, I don't think that's really a terrible bet.
I full-heartedly agree with you on that one because I know Renat, he's had some big wins in the UFC. He's gotten the win over Brian Battle, which I mean now it's seasoned like fine wine, I guess you could say. And then obviously the win over Kevin Lee. I think that's always going to be a name that just strikes out to people, being a former title challenger and obviously having a lot of accolades in terms of the mixed martial arts scene. But Renat, he definitely had a lot of weak points in that Nicholas Dalby fight. And that's not to not compliment Nicholas Dalby as a fighter, but he's had a lot of points in his career, Dalby, Dalby saying, where he's been inconsistent, and he's really been able to piece together some big fights as of late. And that Renat fight was, I just feel, another cornerstone on Nicholas Dalby's kind of resume, but also on Renat. I mean, that could also be a win that ages, like how you were saying, pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Renat Fakhretdinov, I mean, he's a fun fighter to watch. I like what it is that he's been doing thus far. Like I said, I thought the Dalby fight was absolutely killer. I hope the bout order on Tapology is wrong. I hope this isn't the early prelim opener. Hopefully this fight gets pushed up further along on the card. I think it's a really exciting matchup. And then another one that I'm looking at that I think is also kind of fun is if you scroll up a little bit, Michael, it's the Abus fight. I think that's on the prelims as well. That's going to be another.
Yeah, it's a prelim fight.
That's another really exciting fight that I'm looking at. Abus Magomedov going up against Bruno Fajeda. Fajeda fought Dustin Stoltzfus in his last fight, and that fight was a lot closer than I think a lot of people thought it was going to be. I remember Dustin Stoltzfus had him in a knee bar, is what it looked like initially, and it looked really close. I think of Dustin Stoltzfus, he's a guy that can get cracked, but if he gets in a grappling exchange with you and he gets this fight down to the canvas, he's a live dog with the submissions. A lot of people don't know that about Dustin Stoltzfus, and I was wondering if he was going to be able to figure out a way to get Fajeda out of there with a knee bar or a sub of something like that. It didn't end up happening. Hats off to Fajeda. He ends up absolutely cracking him with a slick elbow knockout. That was awesome. And then he's going up against Abus Magomedov. Consistency has been kind of the issue with this guy. He's looked good at times, but then he's also put up some stinker performances as well. Do you like
Sean Strickland fight? That was really rough. That's really
exactly
rough on
the Cal Bahalio fight. That was another one that probably didn't age all that. I know he lost that fight, but it was kind of like a boring stinker of a fight. He has the potential. He's shown flashes. He just really needs to be more consistent. He needs to put it all together. I'm really curious to see how he's going to look like going up against a guy that has found a way to plow through everybody and get these early knockouts. But both of these guys are gassers. Both of these guys, their cardio isn't that great. Bruno Fajeda has never been the distance in an MMA fight before. And then we know for a fact, Abus Magomedov, he definitely loses steam as these fights go on. I think it's really a matter of who can manage their gas tank better. I'm really looking forward to this fight. I think it's a really compelling fight in the middleweight division.
Let's just talk about that middleweight division, because I feel like for a couple of years back, I mean, let's just look, Izzy Adesanya was, when he was champ, everybody was writing off this middleweight division. Oh my gosh, it's terrible. There's like, we need prospects, this and that. Now, I mean, flash forward a couple of years, and we're talking about guys like Abus Magomedov. I don't even think Abus is, in all retrospect, like a super amazing prospect. But this was a guy that was getting main events a couple of years ago against Sean Strickland, and now he's on the prelims. It just goes to show you how wrong some of those statements and some of those kind of things were stated in terms of the middleweight division. Because when I was hearing that, I was like, how can you say the middleweight division is like lackluster when a lot of these guys haven't even really had those big fights yet to even show what they got? You know what I'm saying? And I feel like it's been shown in the pudding these past 2 years.
I think you're going to see a lot of movement in the 185-pound weight class in 2025. We have these young killers like Fluffy. He just got a freaking amazing performance last week against Michel Pereira, who's another really good fighter, even though he ended up losing. And we're seeing also like guys that have like had it for a really long time and either haven't delivered on the goods or just getting older. Jack Hermansson's a really good example of that. Marvin Vettori, I know he's a young guy still, but not the most consistent fighter. Jared Cannonier's another guy who had been fighting at the peak for a very long time, and now we see back-to-back disappointing performances from him. I can't help but think they're going to really start pushing these Joe Pifers. They're really going to start pushing guys like Bo Nickel up these ranks, and I think you're going to see a very different top 15 here in another 6 months or so.
I think I could definitely see that very much coming in. I think what are your thoughts about the possibility of I heard Fluffy was calling out for that DDP matchup. I think that's kind of a matchup that like hardcore fight fans at 185. I know we're breaking away a little bit from that 308 card, but man, like I just can't stop thinking about that fight because I think that's fireworks if they're able to put that together in South Africa, maybe if the time, because I know the Dana's been complaining that he hasn't been able to get the venue quite set. So I mean that gives him some time though. I mean, especially like how you're saying, you know, get Fluffy on a little bit of a run, get some of these guys on a big run here.
I think the challenge with that is Fluffy's at the bottom end of the middleweight rankings right now. Now the rankings are just a benchmark. At the end of the day, the UFC can put together any fight that they really want, but I think he just needs a little bit more time. I think they really need to build him up correctly. I don't think I'd give him a title fight anytime soon. I think really what I would like to see is I'd like to see him go up against somebody like a Jack Hermanson. I would like to see him fight somebody like Marvin Vettori or Jared Cannonier. I think those are all great fights for him. And spoiler alert, I think he wins all those fights too. I think he's a phenomenal prospect. I'm really excited about this guy. I'm really excited to see what it is that he can do. I believe he is going to be in that top 5. Give it another year or so.
That's exactly what I was kind of going along that same road. I don't think he'll get that title shot just right away either. I think he'll definitely a couple of, like how you're stating, maybe some bigger performances, maybe over the likes of a Jared Cannonier, or possibly I've seen some people stating Kyle Barajo, but I know that Kyle Barajo is being discussed for the Australia card, so a little bit of skepticism, a little bit of things up in the air with all that. But another big card that another big fight on this prelim that I think a lot of people, and especially UFC fans that have been watching for quite some time, that are definitely going to have circled. RDA, Jeff Neal going at it, 170 pounds. RDA is kind of officially making his mainstay here at 170. I think this is a really tough fight for people to bet on, especially consider Jeff Neal's last couple of performances. He's had the Ian Gary loss, he's had the Shavkat Rakhmonov war, and then RDA is kind of, he's been getting wins, but silently. So what are your thoughts behind this matchup? I think it's very interesting.
It is very interesting, and now we see RDA going back up to 170 pounds, and it just kind of makes you wonder. Anytime I think of Rafael Dos Anjos, I think of man, it's a shame that there isn't anything in the 160 range, right? Because he's that in-betweener guy that's fought at lightweight for a long time, and now
that Kevin
he's
Lee fit.
Yeah, and now he's back at the welterweight division. So it's really just a matter of who can be the more consistent guy, because it's been a minute since Jeff Neal's really done anything of consequence. And hate to say it, but Rafael Dos Anjos, kind of the same deal with him. The last time RDA won a fight, he got a submission victory over Brian Barberena. I think it was in the second round. That was going on a couple years back. And then for Jeff Neal, off the top of my head, who did he last beat? I know he went up against Ian Gary, and that was a split decision. I thought it was a fight that he ended up losing. The last time he won a fight, you have to go back to August of 2022 when he knocked out Vicente Luque. And unfortunately for him, that's just a fight that isn't going to be aging well. Luque just looks like a complete shell of himself. I think Jeff Neal, if we're going to give him some slack, it's okay. You got choked out by Shavkat. Not a big deal. He's going to be fighting for the title here pretty soon. And then he drops a split decision against Ian Machado Gary. Now, I thought Ian Gary won, to be fair. That's my opinion. There are some people out there that might think differently because, you look at it, I can understand an argument in which you might be inclined to give it to Jeff Neal. I think Zach actually thought Jeff Neal won, and I was like, you're on crack. But in any event, that's it's all good. The point I'm trying to make here is he's gone up against elite competition. This should be a fight that he should be able to win, in my opinion. I think it is going to be close, though. I don't think anyone's running away with this fight. I predict a 29-28 for Jeff Neal in this fight.
I think I'm actually very much on the train that you are, because Jeff Neal, I know that he's had, how you stated, you can write these kind of decisions. You can be like, okay, well, he had the Ian Gary fight, and Ian Gary's a rising prospect, and Shavkat's right. But at the end of the day, the UFC doesn't really look at who's on the rise and who you're fighting. It's more of, you've dropped 3 or 4 in this last couple fights, unless your name's Tony Ferguson, or unless you're one of those big name guys that's really made us money in the past. We don't know if they're going to be sticking around too long. So this possibly could be a really, really large fight for Jeff Neal, and moving forward, especially at that 170 division. But then, what do you kind of make of the whole Shara Bullet being on this main card over guys possibly I'm even looking at this prelim, I think Mukhtabek Orabay in that Mateus matchup could possibly take that spot over there on the main card. I don't see where the UFC is getting the marketing for this guy in terms of Shara Bullet and Shar Magomedov. I know he has the look, but I don't know. Would you disagree with me on that, or where do you lie on the whole Shara Bullet train?
It's very interesting because I look at him and I obviously see a gifted Muay Thai fighter. And the one thing I will give the UFC credit for is they know their market and they know the matchups very well. They're not putting him up against somebody who's going to be testing him in the grappling. If you notice all of his matchups, who's he going up against? Strikers predominantly. Now, I will say in this particular matchup, he's going up against an incredibly gifted striker in Armin Petrosian. Armin Petrosian, his weak spot, coincidentally, is grappling. I don't think he's got to worry about that against Shar Magomedov. And in fact, I like him as a dog in this fight against Shar Magomedov. Armin Petrosian, last time I looked, he was around plus 150, plus 160. Look at his body of work. Look who he's beat in the past. He has a split decision victory over RoboCop Gregory Rodriguez. That's a very, very impressive victory. He also has a victory over Christian Leroy Duncan, who's another insane striker. Don't sleep on Armin Petrosian. He doesn't have to worry about getting taken down either. It's a very, very interesting matchup between two very gifted strikers. The one thing that kind of surprises, or I shouldn't say surprise, but the one thing that would concern me if you're a betting guy, this fight's in the Middle East, the crowd's going to be behind Magomedov. How are the judges going to react to that? This could very much be a very close fight. It could go to a split decision even, and you kind of have to think like, okay, well, conventional wisdom would say that would favor somebody like Shara Bullet, right? But I like Armin Petrosian in this spot. A great striker. Don't sleep on his striking. Guys take down Armin Petrosian because they're afraid of his striking. If that's the way to beat him, go for takedowns, choke him out. I don't see Shara Bullet doing that in this fight.
I think honestly this is I think you had mentioned it too in that video, like one of the sleeper picks on the card, because like I feel like a lot of people are just Shara Bullet, and you even see the UFC just pushing him so hard, but it's like guys like Armin, like you see their like body of work, and you see the guys that they fought like previously, and then you look at the guys that Sharad's fought, and I mean even in his last fight, I know he was able to notch the finish in the third round, but that was coming off of a guy that was sitting on the couch. That, I mean, Mackenzie Dern's husband, he was looking to get into fights with Bobby Green like a couple of months ago. You know, like it's just I don't know if he's really ready for that quite level up in competition. And I know we're speaking about Armin Petrosian in terms of like, oh, like maybe not, but he's still a very high level striker, like how you mentioned, a very, very dangerous matchup, especially for a lot of guys that are looking to peek into that 185-pound division that we were just stating so highly about.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'll be really interesting to see just kind of like how these two game plan for each other, because Shara Bullet, I think he's meeting his match in terms of a very technical striker, somebody who's going to be able to go up to with him toe to toe and let it rip. It's going to be an exciting fight. In fact, even a finish wouldn't really surprise me here. I have to actually go in the full 15 minutes, but that is definitely a interesting fight. In my opinion, though, Michael, I think you hit the nail on the head, though. You look at some of the earlier fights, I'm of the opinion that Renat should probably be opening up the main card. That's this right here, this fight that we're talking about. I think that's the featured prelim.
I think I could definitely agree with that. And then maybe even I would see like the fact that Jeff Neal and RDA is leading off that prelim over there is just, it's kind of crazy to me. And like how you were stating, like there's just so many fights on this card where it's like you could argue, oh yeah, throwing them here, throwing them there, but it's just this main card is just absolutely stacked from top to bottom. It's 4 fights, probably one of the better, I would say, feature to main events that we have seen in quite some time. Would you agree with me on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're looking at what's going to go down as one of the best pay-per-views of 2024. This pay-per-view offering is, dare I say, worth actual money. So can't say that.
I actually may be buying this.
But yeah, I mean, it's probably worth the price tag. Enjoy it while you can. And then especially for you guys over on the West Coast, you'll be able to eat your omelets and, drink your beers at noon and watch a great afternoon of fights.
Hey, it depends on where you are over here. You may be smoking up a bleezy that early up in the morning. So, just depends on where you're at. Not everyone, the old California sober saying. But as we look to go into this main card, the only fight that I could really see being a snoozer on here, and I mean, disagree with me completely if you disagree, but it's the Lerone Murphy and Dan Ige fight, which I think on paper a lot of people are going to look at, especially Ige's last fight, taking on Diego Lopez, 3 days notice. I mean, UFC's obviously been looking to put a little bit more into Mr. 50K Ige after that, but I just think that with Lerone Murphy's style, it's almost like somebody made a comment the other day, and it honestly, like, it just clicked, and I was like, wow, that's what he reminded me of. It reminds me so much of a young Leon Edwards. Like, I know everyone's going to say that with the angling, but just so, like, clicked on, even in terms of the way that he is able to, when he does get those like close to finishing sequences or has really good series like the Edson Barboza fight, he looked so much similar to like a smaller Leon.
You know what? It's funny that you say that because when I think of a guy like Lerone Murphy, I think of like a ham sandwich, right? It's not flashy, but it's good. Have you ever had a bad ham sandwich? I haven't. I love
Nope.
ham sandwiches.
You can
Right?
throw mustard on that thing. You can do all kinds of things with a ham sandwich, man.
And that to me is Lerone Murphy personified. Like he's not flashy. He's never gonna be like this big, huge superstar that the UK desperately wants. Like they want all their guys to do well. They want all these superstars because let's face it, outside of Aspinall, outside of Edwards, outside of Paddy the Batty, it's kind of limited. They want to see their guys do well. He's obviously a very flashy guy. He's very technically sound. You look at him, look at what he did. He beat the brakes off of Edson Barboza. But to your point, this is a guy that can slow down the pace of a fight. He's very calculated. He's very technical. Is he the flashiest guy? Probably not. Is he the most exciting guy? Is he going to be a UFC superstar? Again, the answer is no to probably all those things, but he's smart. He's very calculated. I definitely respect him. I'll go as far as to say my love for Dan Ige aside, I got to go with Lerone Murphy in this fight. I think this is a great matchup for him. They want to push him. They want to see what it is that he could do. Obviously, with Dan Ige, we have a guy that's on the tail end of the rankings here. It's a great opportunity for Lerone Murphy to ascend in the rankings a little bit and see what it is that he can do. I say ascend to the rankings because I'm pretty sure Dan Ige, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Ige is actually ranked below him. But I think if he can get the job done over Dan Ige, he should be able to get a much bigger fight at featherweight. We'll see what they have in store for him, but I think this is going to be a fight that he'll, as long as he's smart, he should be able to take care of Dan Ige. Dan Ige, though, we know what it is that he can do. This guy can put anybody's lights out. He could be losing 14 minutes of a fight. He only needs one opportunity, one shot, and you're sleeping on the canvas. Lerone Murphy better watch out for that. I think he'll be okay, though. Dan Ige is an absolute legend. He's an absolute beast. I think Lerone Murphy should be able to handle him, though.
Always game and always ready to go at it is Dan Ige, man. Like, I feel like every single time I've ever put on the TV, and like Dan Ige just got that, like, he's almost like got the look of a Lerone Murphy in terms of like, he's not a flashy guy. He's not doing all this to kind of glitz and glam. But man, when he goes to that cage and those doors are shut and the timer starts going down, like how you said, all it takes is one punch from that man, and we'll be seeing the judges' scorecards being read off at the end of the night, man, because he is an absolute tank at 145. But what are your thoughts looking at this light heavyweight matchup? I mean, Alexander Rakic, Magomed Ankalaev, possibly would you say this is like a title eliminator? I know UFC hasn't really mentioned that, but I feel like at light heavyweight, what else does Alex Pereira really have left? Except for taking down and beating, not taking down literally, but taking down the quote-unquote Russian, the Russian beast that is standing in his way, the Rocky Four. I think that would actually be his fourth title defense as well. Ankalaev, man, if he's able to get this win, I think possibly we'll be seeing that main event, or what you think? What are you thinking?
It's interesting. I definitely agree with you in the sense that, is it a title eliminator for Magomed Ankalaev? Most certainly. Can I say that about Alexander Rakic? I'm not sure because he's been away for a long time and he's on a 2-fight skid at the moment. It's kind of, I feel bad for Magomed Ankalaev really because this is a shitty fight for him to have to take. It's all risk and real no reward because if he gets the job done against Alexander Rakic, which I think he will, but if he gets the job done, like, how has his position improved? He should already be the number one title contender, in my opinion. He should have got that opportunity over Khalil Roundtree. He never did. And really, this is just an opportunity for him to collect a paycheck. You kind of feel bad for him. This is a guy that I think, I'm not sure what it is. I don't know the details. I don't know if there's a visa issue, if the timing never worked out, or maybe he got hurt. Who knows? You know as well as I do, Michael, like, there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes, and it's easy to speculate. It's easy to say that the UFC's given somebody the shaft, but I don't know. I don't know if this guy had visa issues. I don't know what's going on with his injury history or whatever the case may be, but, it just makes you wonder, right? Because we just had that Roundtree fight happen a couple weeks back, and now we have this fight. It's like, wait, we couldn't have figured this out. We couldn't have figured out the logistics for this. Like, we couldn't have figured out a way to make these two meet in the card. Now, I'm not saying this fight should necessarily happen. I don't think Pereira should have to go out to the Middle East to fight Magomed Ankalaev, but it's like you guys couldn't have put that on the John Jones card in December in New York. Like, we got to figure this out. But in any event, yeah, he is the heir apparent in terms of who should be next. I think he will take care of business against Alexander Rakic. The one thing about Rakic, he is a beast. I'm a fan of him. He's a
danger on the feet. Dangerous on the feet.
He is. He absolutely is. But so is Magomed Ankalaev. Like, I did not have him starching Johnny Walker on my bingo card. I thought he was going to go for a takedown and choke him out and maybe get a ground and pound finish. We know Johnny Walker. We know that he has some grappling deficiencies. Takedown defense ain't the best. We saw Magomed Ankalaev just knock him into a new orbit. He looked absolutely fantastic in that matchup. I actually think he's going to get a finish here against Alexander Rakic. I think this fight's going to make its way down to the canvas, and I like Magomed Ankalaev to get a ground and pound finish in the third round.
And everybody always seems to complain, and I think it's kind of going to be my closing note on Ankalaev, just so we can go ahead and hop into this co-main event and main event here. But everyone always complains about Ankalaev being boring. But let me just tell you, the only boring, quote-unquote boring fight I've ever really watched from this man was his fight with Jan Blachowicz, which is probably, now looking back in retrospect, one of the better light heavyweights that we have seen in the past 5 or 6 years. I mean, even going to look through John Jones's light heavyweight title resumes, I would put Jan Blachowicz over Vincent St. Preux. I love Dom Reyes, but I'm putting him over Dom Reyes. Like, I mean, I don't know. I think it's absolutely sinister and crazy that we're talking in 2024 and Magomed Ankalaev. And we're in quarter 4 of 2024, and Magomed Ankalaev still hasn't got a title shot. It's crazy to me, and the fact that people are saying, "Oh, boring," "Oh, this," all that. I've only watched one boring fight from this guy, and I would probably say it was one of the most competitive fights that we've seen in terms of scoring, and actually deserving of a draw in some sort of senses.
Apples to oranges comparison, I'll admit, but Raquel Pennington got a title shot, so that's all I'm saying.
That's all we got. That's all we got to say in
like,
terms of that.
We're gonna call Magomed Ankalaev boring. Raquel Pennington got a title shot, so.
If we're gonna be going down that route, UFC, I think Ankalaev deserves it next, my man.
There we go.
And then this is the same exact logic. If you're gonna go ahead and look at this co-main event, everybody pushing Khamzat Chimaev, possibly looking to go and have that 185 title shot if he's able to get a big win against Robert Whittaker, which I don't even know if I really feel the best about kind of shooting Chimaev up so fast, especially after kind of what some would call, I know he had the 10-8 against Usman in the first, which was impressive. Don't get me wrong. Love Usman. Love that fact that he was able to pick that up on such short notice. But it's still Usman going up from 170 to 185. And Usman definitely tired him out in the second or third round. I'm very excited to see what Robert Whittaker does in terms of improving the game, because I think Khamzat's going to kind of take some pages out of the DDP playbook and possibly look to go ahead and go attack the grappling over here against Whittaker. I really think Whittaker's going to have a tough time in this matchup. I think Chimaev gets it done, but I wanted to hear your breakdowns on it, because I'm hearing all kinds of sorts of predictions going out there in the world right now in terms of this matchup.
It's really interesting because, like, you look at the betting odds and you see a crazy number like plus 250 by Robert Whittaker's name, and it gives you like a reason to pause, right? And I think the reason why I look at this matchup, it's a test. It's a test for Khamzat Chimaev on two fronts. Number one, how are you going to fare against an elite middleweight prospect? That's the obvious with Robert Whittaker sharing the cage with him. Number two, the UFC asked that this fight be 5 rounds. Robert Whittaker did not ask for that. There was an article that was published earlier today, and Robert Whittaker was like, I prefer a 3-round fight, actually, because I don't get paid more for that. I would have preferred a 3-rounder. Well, for me, as the analyst, I look at this, and I'm thinking to myself, like, that should benefit you, my man. If you get out of the first 2 rounds, you have 3 more rounds to play with. That to me would be your best path to victory. Take him into the deep waters, just like our guy Fluffy did last week. Drown him in round 4 or 5 and get an exhaustion knockout or get a submission, something to that extent. The one thing I want to see about Khamzat Chimaev is he going to be able to ragdoll somebody like Robert Whittaker, a guy who is known for having very good takedown defense and for being a good grappler in his own right. Khamzat Chimaev went up against Usman, one of the best welterweights, but not a middleweight. And we saw that after that first round, it was a completely different fight. In fact, I would go as far as to say I thought it was a draw. I thought I had a 10-8 in the first round for Khamzat, and then I had Usman winning rounds 2 and 3. I had that fight a draw. I would even go as far as to say I wouldn't really argue with you too much if you said you thought Usman won that fight. So just food for thought here. I think this is going to be a fight where if Khamzat Chimaev is going to get it done, he's going to need to get a finish in rounds 1 or 2. It's not the most outlandish prediction. I can understand why. I mean, the odds are in your favor. I mean, I guess because that's the chalk pick, right? That's the guy that everyone thinks is going to win. But I'm going the other way, man. I'm going to take Robert Whittaker. I think Robert Whittaker is going to be able to take this fight into the deep waters and figure out a way to win. Now, again, this fight's in the Middle East, and there's a risk element to that because you go to decision in the Middle East. The crowd is going to react to everything that Khamzat Chimaev does. Probably not going to be a lot of reactions to anything that Robert Whittaker does. That's something that's baked in the back of my mind. But if you look at the fight, you're getting plus 250. So you know what? I'm okay rolling the dice on Robert Whittaker to get this one done by decision. I'm looking at it more and more, and it's like, Khamzat Chimaev is a tough dude. I'm sure everyone's already like bashing his cardio. We all shit on DDP a few months back, saying like, oh, this guy, he's gonna look like shit in a 5-round fight, and he went 5 rounds, and he didn't look that bad. He looked pretty good. We'll see. I bet you Khamzat Chimaev's cardio is a lot better now. I bet a lot of people are probably exaggerating his cardio issues because we have to remember nobody stays static. Everyone's improving behind the scenes, or they're getting worse behind the scenes. I have to believe with the extended layoff that Khamzat Chimaev has made the most of that opportunity. I would imagine his health is in a much better place. I'm also going to guess his cardio is in a much better place, but I still think Robert Whittaker has enough tools in his toolbox to get a victory. I'll say it even goes a split decision, but I'm going to give it to Robert Whittaker. Something tells me that he's going to figure out a way to edge out Khamzat Chimaev.
I definitely wouldn't be mad at that one, man. I would be pretty happy if my boy, the Reaper, was able to go ahead and get that victory. I think a lot of UFC fans would, even if they are fans of Chimaev. It just would be one of those kind of feel-good wins of the year, especially after losing the fight to DDP and then, being able to get that win against Ikram, kind of on a little bit of a feed-em fight. The UFC threw him Ikram, and everyone was like, oh, why is this matchup even being made? Whittaker passed that test with flying colors, like how many believed he thought he would. I believe you said he also was going to pass that test with flying colors. So possibly looking to be 2 for 2 on your predictions this year with Robert Whittaker. I definitely wouldn't mind that prediction if it were to come into fruition. We got the main event here, though. Topuria Holloway. I mean, my heart says Holloway, but man, this young kid from Spain, he's just got something about him, man. And I personally was in the building for that UFC 298, and I cannot tell you enough. I know everyone uses this word so lightly nowadays, but I truly think in terms of aura and the way that he is able to talk and walk the walk, he is probably one of the closest prospects that we have seen to McGregor in quite some time. I think a lot of people have had their guys that they, and I know everyone hates the McGregor comparison and whatever, but at the end of the day, that has been our cash cow in the sport. And I think that Topuria is possibly, I know it's going to be hard to match a guy like McGregor. I don't think we'll ever meet another guy like that. But man, the way that he is able to pull together and just bring the hype in, and not only that, but encapsulate an arena. Because let me tell you, as soon as he walked out at UFC 298, I almost felt the building flip. Everybody was going for Volkanovski in that lead up, and then a just sudden split just happened. And I don't know. It's just, I'm feeling this kind of in the lead up to this one. I'm hoping that it doesn't go that way. I think Max Holloway, even fundamentals to be able to break down a guy like Topuria. But I want to hear your thoughts, especially with now you having your own prediction show and you obviously watching a ton of both these guys' fights going into it.
The first thing I would say about Ilia Topuria is, like, this isn't even the best version of him yet. He's only 27 years old. You're talking about a guy who's accomplished so much. He has an undefeated record, and he beat arguably one of the best featherweight contenders in the modern UFC era in Alexander Volkanovski. He's only 27 years old. And the fact that he was able to get a knockout the way in which he did, I thought that was very, very impressive. I can't say enough good things about Ilia Topuria. This guy, like, he's made me into a believer. He had some shaky starts. I remember earlier on in his career, he looked very human. I remember there was that fight against Jai Herbert where I thought Jai Herbert was going to get him out of there.
That head kick, man. I was like, whoa, what's happening right now? Like, I was watching that too at home with just, what the fuck is happening? Like,
yeah, I mean, I remember that. Like, Jai Herbert almost took him out, but then he follows that up by beating Bryce Mitchell at his own game, getting him out of there with an arm triangle. Very, very impressive. He ends up going the distance with Josh Emmett, who is a guy that maybe I was ready to like write off prematurely. I looked at him like, Emmett ain't the same dude, but he's a tough guy on any given day, and he was able to go the distance with Josh Emmett. I think of Josh Emmett, I think of like American style wrestling, and with some of these European guys that are taking some of these fights, they haven't experienced some of that before. You're always kind of curious to see, like, in terms of a MMA fight, what is that going to look like?
Yeah.
He passed a huge test there, and then he follows that up at UFC 298, and he sparks Alexander Volkanovski in the second round. I mean, how can you not be impressed with this guy? All that stuff being said, I mean, you're talking about a challenger, Max Holloway, who you want to talk about a guy who's like talk the talk and walk the walk. It's definitely Max Holloway. And I'm looking at this and it's like, it's easy to get lost in the sauce, right? Because we dive into the analytics, we look into the past, but there's just something that tells me in this fight that Max Holloway is going to pull it off. I looked at this fight and I was like, my brain tells me Ilya Topuria is like the guy you should pick, right? It's like, okay, like Ilya
The
Topuria,
young prospect,
like,
he's blazing guy going through the division. Yeah, I agree with you.
The young like murderer, right? It's like you look at this guy and it's like based off of what happened with Volkanovski, how can you not be impressed? But then there's another part of me that was like, okay, well, make a case, Tyler, for Max Holloway. How would you do that? And I sat down and I thought about it and I was just like, okay. And I'm not trying to take anything away. I think I've been very complimentary of Ilya. The reality, though, did Volk come back too soon? That is permeating in my brain. I look at that and I'm like, Volk, I've seen that guy eat shots before. And that to me is a shot that had he taken 6 to 9, 12 months off, could he have like lasted? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But I just can't help but think about that. I can't help but think like, did Volk come back too soon? And did that lead to the result that we got? Maybe, maybe not. It's all conjecture. We'll never know. To be fair, now, even if Alexander Volkanovski's out for like, an ample amount of time, he's not beating Ilya Topuria. I don't see that happening. But
I think it's a very hard matchup for him either way. Like, and going into it, it's just a very tough matchup in terms of size. And I think, honestly, I think, and this is not to interrupt, but like Topuria mentioned, Volkanovski, I went in there, I did in 5 minutes what you couldn't do in 70. But the Holloway match, and they always say style makes fights. I think like the Volkanovski and Holloway is like the perfect representation of that, because you have the lengthy striker, the guy he's very well known for his diversity in terms of mixed martial arts, but some guys just have your number at the end of the day. We have seen that so many times in mixed martial arts. And I think just Volk had Holloway's number, and Topuria has Volk's number, and sometimes that's what makes divisions so great, and I feel like that's what we're seeing now on full display, possibly looking on Saturday.
The one thing that I would want to put out there for the record, though, is this. Going into UFC 300, what were we hearing? We were hearing going up to 155 pounds, going up against a guy that hits like a freaking truck in Justin Gaethje, and what happened? Max Holloway put on a striking clinic, made Justin Gaethje look like an amateur, and he puts him out of there. He points down to the ground and said, like, I'll give you a chance. I'll give you a chance, Justin. Like, let's just trade. And then he sparks him at the very end of the fight. One of the most legendary fights I've ever seen. The point I'm trying to make here is everyone's talking about Ilya's power, but how come nobody's talking about Max Holloway? I know it's not something we see all the time. I know he's a guy that goes to decision oftentimes, but I thought he showed in that fight that, hey man, like, don't sleep on this guy's power either. Like, he can hit you, he can hurt you. He took out Jose Aldo by ground and pound finish. He took out Anthony Pettis by finish. He took out Gaethje just recently, and then Korean Zombie too. So the point I'm trying to make here is like, he may not necessarily be like known to the extent for his knockout power as Ilya Topuria is, but I wouldn't discount him. I think that he can shock the world. I think Max Holloway is going to shock the world and figure out a way to capture his title. I really think that. And it's like, would that be, if Max Holloway wins this fight, is it the most shocking outcome? Like, because we look at it and it's like, I just said it. It's like, holy shit, Max Holloway like won, right? But is it really all that surprising when you think about it? Like, look at what he's done. Look at who he's beat. He's been at the top of the pile for a very, very long time. I can't help but think that he's going to figure out a way to get Ilya down to the ground. Or I'm sorry, I want to say that Ilya is going to try to get this fight down to the ground. He's going to feel Max's power. I think there's going to be some exchanges. I think they're both going to hurt each other. But at some point over the course of this fight, I'm predicting that Ilya is going to want to try to engage in the grappling. And I don't think he's going to be able to. Max Holloway, very, very good takedown defense. I think he's going to manage to keep this fight on the feet. Should be a really exciting one. I'm really curious to see what will happen.
I'm really excited to see what goes down. UFC 308 over there, Abu Dhabi, and I know you're going to be cracking open a cold one right as soon as the fights start over there, man. I know you won't be able to go ahead and enjoy some of Cali's greens, but you'll be able to enjoy some of the DMV and the East Coast finest beverages, right?
Yes, sir. You got that right. I will be enjoying the fights, and I appreciate having the opportunity to come and chat with you and your audience about UFC 308. I'm looking forward to it, man.
It's been an absolute pleasure to get to have you on the program, Tyler. I mean, whether it be through our voice messages and the various impressions we can go ahead and pull off that will never be released to the public, never, no matter how much money you guys give me, I promise I will never do an impression on live. And me and Tyler, man, it's always great pleasure getting to speak to you, my brother. Thank you so much for joining the program and breaking that down with me today, my man.
Thanks, guys.
Eric, thank you, my brother. Tyler Little over there out of Mom's Basement MMA. Always a great pleasure getting to speak to my guy over there. And it was something that, I mean, Tyler's just one of those dudes that I speak to kind of on a constant basis. I really wanted to have him on the program today to get to talk about the card in full, since I had the time today to get to speak to all you lovely people after some, let me just say, a hectic day. Cal Poly finishing up the last year, got these midterms out of the way. We're now looking to go full steam ahead into what is possibly one of the most exhilarating shows that I've got to have on the platform here so far. So I really want to appreciate everybody. If you have been tuning in, if you've been just checking in, checking out, wanting to watch when you guys are going and hopping on an interview, I appreciate you either way. And of course, we will be making sure to upload all those clips and everything, all that good stuff as this stream ends. So I appreciate all you folks for dropping in. We now look to take it into our last interview for today. I promise after this, we will go ahead and close out the show. Got my guy, Roger Severson, going and hopping onto the show and giving us a little bit of a breakdown of his last fight over there at LFA Santa Cruz. And then on top of that, his MMA journey in what has been a wild one, originally starting over there with Team Nobody MMA in the 707 Susan City area, and then now over there with the Scrap Pack team, Gilbert Melendez, Hyder Emil, and company, along with Coach Jairo Escobar out of there. I mean, just a great team over there in the Bay Area. We now look to take it into my interview with my guy, Roger Severson. Check it out. It is here, MLH Media Uncensored, here once again today to talk to another one of the Scrap Pack team members over there, Roger Severson. How's it going today, brother? AKA Rare Breed over there coming out of the Yay area. How's it going, my man?
Man, it's going good. Really, really blessed. Doing real good. Just got done with training. I actually left El Nino not too long ago, taking my little rest before I go and get some Muay Thai in. It's still those 2 days outside of camp, 2 days always.
And can you kind of bring us through that and being part of that El Nino team? Because I feel like a lot of people may not know this, but you are actually a part of Nobody MMA over there as well, which is another very prominent mixed martial arts gym now that's growing rapidly over there in the Fairfield 707 area. Can you kind of explain how it's been with your mixed martial arts journey? Because, I mean, being part of now two teams, which are two of them, I would say, rising crop over there in Northern California. Obviously, everyone knows about Scrap Pack, but now you got Houston Skybeck, Terrence Saturn, all those guys turning it up over there as well, over there at Nobody MMA.
Yeah, I love them over there at Train for Life. I was with Train for Life. I'm from Vallejo, California. So I started with Sonny and the Nobodies and everything. I love those guys, man. Great people. And with the Soroños too. You know what I mean? I did a lot of training with Bobby Soroño. Big Bobby was a major role as well in my upbringing in this fight game, in this fight community. So I trained out there, ended up, pandemic happened after all that. Ended up not being in the best version of myself, you know what I mean? I can't say the pandemic did it to me, because it was ultimately me You know what I mean? That did it to me. Nobody else is responsible for what happens in my life except for me. So I wasn't the best version of myself. Went and got some help. Ended up moving out to Pittsburgh. And I used to cross train when I was with nobody. My first amateur fight was actually with on Gilbert Melendez Day in Vallejo at Marine World against
Wow,
one of his guys. Yeah, I was with one
that's
of his
crazy
guys.
connection.
Yeah, and that was my first amateur fight. I took I'd only been training. It was like 3 months to the day, and I took my first amateur fight. And yeah. Anyways, but I used to cross train with Gil and everything, and I've always had a good rapport with him. Gil's just a super solid dude, you know. And then when I moved out to Pittsburgh. Um, I wasn't mobile at the time. I was training with Juan Casada out of the Waffle House. He's a black belt from El Nino. You know, he's a veteran in the fight game and everything. So I was training grappling with him and doing Muay Thai with over at Combat Fitness with George Satsui. And then I needed somewhere to put it all together. And like Gil was my first thought, you know. And Juan, I was, you know, because I hold what Juan says dearly. You know, we got a lot of the same morals and core values, and I really appreciate his input and stuff when it comes to this fight game. So I was just like, hey man, I'm thinking about like in this area, what's gonna be functional for me. I was like, it's yeah, like I feel like I want to go out to Scrap Pack, and I had been talking with Hyder Emil because I've been friends with Hyder for a long time, and even before I was, you know, the pandemic happened, I was thinking about a transition as well. So and he was telling me, come on down, but I ended up going out there. I was Barton out there, you know, every day from Pittsburgh. And just as soon as that first day, like Gil's such an amazing human being, bro. Like we just got to work right away. You know what I mean? And it's just it felt like home. You know, I love his teaching style. I love him as a coach. You know what I mean? And just what he stands for. So, like same thing with Juan, man. Like Gil's got a lot of the same core values, and we speak the same language almost. You know what I mean? Like it's very easy to retain anything that he says. Uh, he puts it in a way that I understand, like quickly. Like I can download the information from him quickly. And then he does so much for the gym. He's highly involved in producing these killers, you know, all the fighters out there and everything, you know, from the Amis to their pros are just super, super successful. And I mean, just they're well rounded everywhere. And that's a product of what Gil's done in his career and all the knowledge and everything he's done and experiences he's had. And I, you know, and I admired that, inspired me, like, bro, like come up in here and work fucking hard. So it's like, I love being at El Nino because I'm surrounded not only by just like Gil, but all the other fighters. Like the the work ethic and everything like that is it's contagious, bro. And
Energy. It's the
yeah, man,
energy. Yeah.
energy is amazing, and I love it. You know, like I go in there and I'm inspired by somebody different every day. You know what I mean? And it's you know, and not even fight stuff, life stuff, this, you know what I mean? This stuff, that stuff. You know what I mean? It's just a solid group of people. Like to me, like for me, it's like it's a community, right? And then what for community, it's like what is a community? Well, it's a group of people that have a common unity, right? And our common unity is fucking trying to be the best version of ourselves, coming in there and working our asses off and making sure we were better than like the hour and a half or 2 hours that we got there. You know what I mean? Like I want to be better than I was when I stepped in this door, and every single time I feel like that's it. Like I feel accomplished when I'm in there. You know?
100%. No, and it definitely seems like that, especially with the aura that that gym gives off, and just the way that you guys are able to support each other and be out there for one another at every single fight. I mean, damn, you guys were over there in Santa Cruz when you had your bout, and it just seemed like the support and the energy was just off the walls in there for anybody that was coming over there out of the El Nino HQ. Can you go into some of those core values and things that you just really seen in connection? I know you were saying, you know, obviously Gil's been known for his ability to give back to the Bay Area and just in general give back to that gym as well. But could you speak into some maybe key events or just actions that you've seen that you're like, yeah, you know what? I want to tie myself and I want to align myself over here with Scrap Pack. I want to go ahead and keep on moving forward with this team because, like how you said, it was definitely a move for yourself having to take the bar. That's not like an easy journey. I know everyone that may think like, oh, you know, just go into the train, but the part's no easy. It's not an easy train to just go ahead and hop onto, man. You're having to go ahead and go out of your way to go ahead and go into a journey as well. So, you know, what were some things that you were really seeing that you really were like, you know what, I got to go ahead and just sign the dotted line and come over here?
Just to be honest, it's just best way to carry a message is how you carry yourself, man. And Gil carries himself, and he's invested into this fight stuff, man. I mean, the proof's in the pudding. There's people in and out of the game, or doing it when it's just convenient, and like he's invested. He's all in, man. And like that's how I am. And that's why I've traveled the way. It's worth it to me. Like my willingness for this sport, there's nothing that I'm not willing to do. And that's, you know what I mean? He's honest, bro. Like just the integrity of it, you know what I mean? He's in there working with us, you know, and he's open-minded. He's honest with us too. He's like, man, I don't even know about that. He'll tell us if he doesn't know something. He's like, man, we'll figure it out together though. You know what I mean?
It sounds like a Gil thing to say. Can you imagine Gil saying that?
Like, yo, he's so humble and he's so honest and he's genuine, man. And you know how he speaks and how he carries himself is him. It's not he doesn't, like, there's no other intentions behind it. He's him because because that's who he is, not because like, oh, let me, you know, be cool for this so I can get this out of this person. Or he's never been like that, man. You know, I remember that when I fought his it's crazy because when I fought against his guy for my first amateur, I didn't see him for like a year and a half. And at the time, my second daughter was like a week overdue and everything. And I saw him like a year and a half later, and he was like, bro, what's up? And like, remember me, Roger, what's up? How's it going, bro? I heard about your last fight, bro. How's the baby? Like, knew everything that was going on with me, bro. Like, and I'm like like, what? Like Gilbert Melendez knows about what's going on in my life. You know what I mean? But that's just who he is, bro. Like he's for the people. You know what I mean? He doesn't care. Like, don't come with no bullshit. Come in here and if you're for the fight game and you're for the common goal and stuff like that, he's messing with you. You know what I mean? Like he's just super solid dude, bro. Like you rarely meet some people like that. So I feel like it's a super honor and privilege to be able to be able to learn under him and be in the share the same space. You know what I mean? Like I'm grateful for it, right? So grateful is the feeling, but gratitude is an action word. So what am I going to do to show that I'm grateful for that? I'm going to come in there and listen. I'm going to shut the fuck up and I'm going to fucking work my ass off and do whatever's necessary, right? I don't matter, tired, energized, this, that, whatever. And just come in and be, a good training partner, a good student, a good, just, you know what I mean? All around, you know, definitely fall into place. Cause if I'm being honest, you know, when I was with nobody or whatever, there was a point in time in my life where I wasn't that, you know what I mean? So, and that was a time in my life that, I'm not, proud of, but it happened, you know what I mean? So I've bounced back, I've accepted it and all that stuff. And, you know what I mean? I'm out here just trying to be the best version that I can. Not, you know what I mean? For me. And then if I'm the best version for me, everybody around me will feel the benefits of me pouring into me, right? Because if I'm doing it for other reasons, it's not going to come out right.
And it definitely seems like you got the right initiative and the right kind of goal behind yourself, and it seems like everything is starting to come up a little bit more and a little bit more rare breed, and especially in this last bout against Corvon Allen. I mean, like how we were discussing before on the call. I mean, the unanimous decision call on the card, I feel like it was it was a little bit, a very close fight to call. Can you kind of go into it now, watching it back, having some time to reflect on the bout, and what you took away from it and what you kind of feel went down on there? Because I feel like there was a lot of initial breakdowns in that fight that were very, very close. And I don't know, that was just me watching it obviously from the press table. Haven't got the chance to watch it back yet myself, but definitely in the moment was seeming very, very close.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I honestly, I mean, I feel like we won. It wasn't like we just did enough to win. I felt like we won. The takedowns he did get, I ended up on top. I had takedowns of my own. The striking, I did the only striking. So, I mean, like I said, I could feel that way. Of course, I'm always going to feel that way. But I also, like I said, I also had a lot more in the tank, right? I had a lot more to give. So, and that's on me as a veteran in this game, right? I need to pull out what I want from my opponent, right? Because it didn't really go how the game plan. We worked it. We worked the game plan, but I could have pulled it more out of him. And every single time I did do it, we capitalized on it. So like I said, am I happy with the outcome? Of course not. You know what I mean? But me having an opinion about it doesn't change the results of it, right? The results are the results. I came out of it undamaged. And that's more of a me thing, right? I'm mad at me more than like the decision, right? I'm more mad at me. I can't control what those judges saw. I did my job. I went out there and fought, but I could have fought. I could have put it on him more. So, and like I said, that's a me thing. That's not a them thing. I can't. If I can't complain about the consequences without sitting there being upset at the actions, where the actions were what I was in control of. The consequences is leaving it into the judge's hands, or not pushing the pace on him. You know what I mean? I'll take accountability for my cage general, being a cage general or whatever. I felt like I did it well enough, and I felt like we won. We watched it over a couple times, and just between strike on takedowns and then advantage points, almost finished him with a guillotine. Took his back. Took it back twice, I think, if I do remember. But and then none of that ever happened to me. So it's like, but the thing, I don't know if outside things play into it, and I'm not even thinking about that. It's in the past. We already moved on, right? Like I said, if you wanted to run it back, we will run that, whatever. If not, then it's all good. Then I'll run it. I'm on to the next. Like I said, I was just, grateful for the experience. Grateful for that was my first one in a year. So I'm trying to be super active. Trying to get super active. Like I would love to have 2 more before the end of the year.
Any chance we see you on that December card over there at Tech CU Arena, San Jose Fight Night?
I don't. Hey, I'm just the actor, man. There's many other people that are the directors, bro. I just do what, you know what I mean. I keep on going in there and being a good teammate and a good training partner. I'm just in the moment, right? The ones that are on there, I'm trying to be the best teammate that I can for them. Show up every day, be consistent. When my teammates are in camp, I'm in camp, right? So. Right before my fight, I was in camp with Hyder for his. You know what I mean? We spent a lot of time together, and then rolled straight into my camp. So it was I just can keep on doing the things I'm supposed to be doing, and all the rest of all the different variables, they'll handle themselves. You know what I mean? Like I'm doing what's the right thing to do. Or the right thing to do is show up, be positive and work hard with my team, and make the team better overall. You know what I mean? Trying to you know like elite, just be the biggest impact that I can. You know what I mean? Like make an impact in my life, and hopefully that I'm making such an impact in my life with all the training and everything that it impacts other people's lives. You know what I mean? And that's the people that are directly around me, like all the scrap pack. We got a squad over there, man, and I'm super super grateful that there's a lot of great stuff coming for these guys and girls.
You have a lot of risers over there, and like how I was just on a call with Skyshin the other day, speaking a little bit about everything, and he kind of told me, he said same energy, same environment that you were just detailing right now, and then I mean you have Armando, you have so many guys over there. Antonio Vasquez making his professional debut. You then have Kyle Clark making his debut. You then it's crazy to kind of like how you stated.
Logan Diaz is bro. I'm telling you, Logan Diaz is one of the most exciting fighters too, bro. He's gonna be fighting Muay Thai on that card too. He's a killer, bro. Like I love watching that kid. He's so super. All these guys are young, super young, man.
No, and that's the craziest part. It's like how you're saying. It's like. So yeah, like there's the guys that have been there and like guys that have been in this game, but now you have these guys that are like the new young bloods coming in, and it's crazy that it's all in the same group. It's a big old melting pot. Or it's almost similar to it's like a perfect representation of the Bay Area, I would say, because you have so many different cultures, so many different energies coming into that gym, and it's all aligned underneath like how you've been stating, just one goal of kind of bettering each other. So it's great to see you as well saying that, because obviously hearing the same from Skyshin as well yesterday.
Yeah, man, it really is. Like I said, that's that common unity, man. It's I've spent a lot of time in my life being selfish and self-centered when it comes to this fighting, because you have to, right?
The yin and yang, the classic yin and yang, the battle.
Yeah, but it's like it's not about that, man. You know what I mean? Like as I'm getting more seasoned, and I mean I've been doing this almost 12 years now, so been fighting for 12, yeah. And it's like you start to just see stuff differently, bro. And like I said, it's more fulfilling this way. And the thing is like rather if I'm selfish about it or if I'm selfless about it, I'm still getting better, bro. Like these guys are young, man. Like I'm 41, man. So like these guys push me. Like I'm for sure push, but you know what I mean? Like they push I push a pace, they push a pace. And it's man, it's a beautiful thing watching it on a daily. Like on the daily, getting to watch this on the daily. Like if you could be in the gym, seeing our practices, it's wild, man. It's good stuff. It's a lot of good stuff going on there. And that's all coming from the generals. You know what I mean? That's Gil and Kerry. You know what I mean? That they both go in there and they lead great by example. And then the whole coaching staff over there that they got is just really in tune to detail and making sure that everybody is well prepared and I've got Hyro with the Escobar boxing. I've never had anybody on the mitts like that guy.
He's a legend, man. He's something crazy on the mitts. Like his combos, the way that he's able to coordinate with some of you guys, and just I've seen his clips, and I think I'm gonna have to throw one in here because it just doesn't do it justice by us just talking about it. But he will, if you guys are watching it as I'm speaking about it, have little girls, even little boys doing 30 punch combos, just da 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 da, and fast, and not only fast but efficient as well, to where they're like. Yeah, like how you said, the Escobar boxing just on a whole different level over there on the 415, man. It's insane.
Yeah. No, definitely. And then that stuff comes out, man. Like the way he has you training, it retains really, really well. And it will just come out naturally because the way we hit him and everything like that. So we got him, Coach BB. They got a star-studded, cast over there. and it's just all hats. So we just, you know what I mean, hats off to them. You know what I mean, like me, myself, or any of the other people at the gym. I feel like we're just products of our environment. You know what I mean, and it's a super healthy environment, and it's super just like it's just it's so much knowledge in one room, and then just the work ethic, like the grind and everything, and you'll see it in how everybody fights. You know, everybody's going on a tear right now. And it's beautiful, and then we haven't even seen our best days yet. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the best part about it. And it's like it's just gonna get better. And I love that about that place, man. Super, super. Like I said, super grateful about it.
As we get to the kind of ending part of this call here, was there anybody that you wanted to thank in particular for the lead up, not only to this last bout, but in general? Just like I know you've been having obviously high praises for the likes of everybody over there in terms of the scrap pack, the coaching staff, and everything. But you've also mentioned a couple of names in terms of the teammates over there that you've had. You know, you've had the Hyder Mills of the world. You've had obviously Israel Delgado just on that last card with you over there for LFA. Did you have anybody in particular that you really wanted to thank in this last kind of minute or in this closing segment here today that really has just been a big supplement to Mr. Rare Deed, Roger Severson?
I mean, of course, Hyder, man. I spent a lot of time with Hyder. We're close to the same weight class, and he's super knowledgeable, man. He's super selfless, you know. But we get tons of people over there that are coming in and training. You got like Gaston Bolanos coming over there. Everyone, you know, you get people just popping in, not like nonstop. And I'm grateful for it, you know, like for the interactions, right? But you know, Izzy was huge on the last thing up. Also, like, you know, I train Muay Thai and I teach over at Combat Fitness with George Satsui, like I mentioned. They were a big help during this whole process, and during the whole process of everything since I made the comeback to combat sports. But you know, Marcus MB Doodle, like I know you know him.
Yeah,
That
Mark's
guy's
the
just
man.
that dude is the fuck. That guy's the hardest worker. I like if he was a fighter, he'd be a champion already. Like that's how hard he works. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
he is. He's a different type of breed, man. Like I'm not even trying to make a play on the nickname or anything like that for yourself, man. But man, Marcus, he definitely puts in a lot of work for not only scrap pack, but in terms of mixed martial arts in the Bay Area and just Northern California alone. I mean, he's everywhere with you guys, and then just in other events. Like, I mean, he's stopped by A1 Combat sometimes and just been like, "Hey, Mike, what's up?" Like, he didn't even have anybody on the card. So, a true supporter of mixed martial arts through and through, like how you've been saying, man. Like, it's crazy.
100%, man. Like I said, the unsung heroes. You know what I mean? Like, I definitely that's part of walking into the gym and being inspired, right? I find somebody every day like Marcus. He inspires me, man. Like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, look at this guy. You know, like he's that. Like, that's the type of like. There's a bar there. Doesn't matter if you're a fighter, a coach, if you're doing the media or whatever, and the bar is set, like, and it's and everybody rises to the occasion, right? And that's the dopest thing about it. Like, there's a bar set, and everybody gets to that bar and then tries to pass that bar, right? Everybody's giving their full effort, not only into themselves but into everybody that's around them, into the community. And like I said, I'm super grateful for it. You know, but like I said, Combat Fitness, I had a bunch of sponsors last time. Backpack Boys, um, veganism. I mean, there's tons of people at Livermore Barbershop. There's so many people that have been in that's been a part of my journey, right? Uh, I'm not one of those people who are like, yeah, I did this all by myself. Fuck no. Not even close, bro. Like, not even close, you know. Like I'm definitely. I mean, if I had to list a bunch of people that were part of this, um, it would go on forever because I don't like to give a credit to myself, right? Like I just show up and then and do what's, you know what I mean, what I'm told, or what's around. Just like I show up to these places and just tell them like, hey, this is what I want to do, right? And I'm willing to do whatever. And then there's so many people that help me get there, right? And all I have to do is what I love. Like, so I really don't have to really, like, I don't get no kudos for that. I'm just doing what I love. But there's people out there that are taking time, efforts, all that stuff. So there's so many people that play a part in this, man. And I can't take no credit for any of it. All I can just sit back and be grateful, bro. That's it. As I can just sit back and cherish the people that are in my lives and sharing spaces with me, and that's it.
You made a reference earlier. I think you summed it up best. You said, "I'm just merely an actor, and everybody else around me is kind of directors." And William Shakespeare, has a really famous quote. One of his soliloquies. He says, "The whole world's a stage, and merely everyone's a player," meaning that merely everyone in it's just simply an actor in this big old life of play that we have. And I think that everyone plays their own part in this game, and I definitely think that Mr. Rarebead has played a big part in helping further mixed martial arts in his own way. And I think that the game definitely owes you a lot of love, my man. Thank you so much for joining the program here today, my brother. Michael Hernandez, MLH Media, Uncensored here, signing out with the guy, formerly Mr. 707 over there, Roger Severson, now in the 415. Thank you so much for your time today, my brother. Great pleasure getting to have Roger Severson on the program. It was an absolute great time getting to speak to him, getting to hear his experience in the mixed martial arts world, from going to Susan City to having to hop on a BART to go ahead and have to train. I mean, that was absolutely crazy to me. And especially being from someone that's from the Central Valley, I have never, ever even... I mean, I think the last time I maybe went on a BART was to go to an Oakland A's game, which now will be the Sacramento A's. So it's quite a crazy experience. But that will do it for today's episode of MLH Media. MLH Media Uncensored, episode 4. Wow, that was an absolute tongue twister to end off the episode there, wasn't it? Michael Hernandez, MLH Media. I appreciate you guys all supporting and loving the platform. Drop a like, drop a comment, share what you like most about the show. Was it the Tom Anderson feature? Was it my guy Tyler Little coming in from Mom's Basement? Was it the interview? Was it Dylan Napoleon, Roger Severson? Make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss anything moving forward. Got a new episode cooking up for y'all next week. Really excited for that one. Make sure y'all stay tuned. Michael Hernandez, MLH Media, going to be signing out.